Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, partners, colleagues, welcome to Defending Democracy, Horizons of Freedom. We gather today at a moment when democracy is challenged by war, manipulation, and fear. Authoritarian regimes strive on fear. They're built on fear. Fear of exposures, fear of free thinking, and fear of the richness of open societies. Nowhere is this clearer than in Ukraine, where people are resisting aggression not only with weapons, but with dignity, truth, and democratic resolve. Thank you for being part of this conversation on how democracies endure and how they must respond. We are grateful for the support of the Federal Foreign Office of the Federal Republic of Germany, for the Democracy Navigator project, for the support of it, within which this conference is taking place. It is my honor now to present to you Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to North Macedonia, to deliver her opening address.
Dear participants, dear friends of freedom and democracy, while circumstances prevent me from joining you in person today, I want to take this opportunity to send my warmest regards and express my full support for the important discussions around defending democracy. My commitment to our shared cause is with you. We are living in a time of unparalleled instability and threats. Humanitarian catastrophes, wars, and conflicts are pushing the prospect of a dignified life ever further out of reach for many people. In Europe, a continent that after the horrors of the Second World War was long seen as a bastion for peace, war once again defines our political reality. In our immediate neighborhood, Russia is waging a war of aggression against Ukraine. It is a war that not only deprives the people of Ukraine of their right to live in dignity and in freedom, it is a war that shakes the foundations of the European peace order. A war that powerfully demonstrates how fragile humanity's achievements are and how vulnerable the protection of fundamental human rights remains. In times of crisis, we must stand firm in our commitment to defend our democracy and the fundamental human rights that underpin it. These values are not mere abstractions. They are the bedrock upon which our societies are built, and they must be protected at all costs. The preservation of these rights requires unity, strength, and resolve. This is why we need a united, powerful Europe, a Europe that is capable to act decisively in the face of challenges. A Europe that is not only politically and economically strong, but also a Europe that remains steadfast in upholding its core values of democracy, liberty, and justice. Our strength lies in our ability to act collectively to protect the freedoms we hold dear. This is what my country, what Germany, stands for. And when I speak of Europe, I don't speak of EU member states only. The Europe I am referring to is a Europe of shared values, of freedom, of democracy, and of human rights. Because Europe does not end at today's borders of the European Union. Geopolitical tensions and security challenges, as well as economic turmoil, do not stop at customs stations or border posts. Whether EU member state or on the way of becoming one, we are all part of a shared European space shaken by the same forces. In order to defend our democracy and our fundamental human rights, we need to invest in solidarity and cohesion throughout that wide space. Europe is more than a union. Europe is a community of shared destiny, a community that we must shape and defend together. Defending our democracy requires everyone who truly cares to speak up and raise one's voice. Governments, civil society, and media alike. It doesn't mean that we need to speak with one single voice, but it means that our voices, the voices of Democrats, need to be loud. Because even if we don't agree, the loud voices of all those who believe in democracy, in freedom and in human rights will create unity, a unity of resolve and of joint responsibility. I would like to express my gratitude to Sybil and to all of you for your dedication to defend democracy as we continue to navigate challenging times together. I wish you fruitful discussions.
Thank you. I would like to thank the German ambassador for this warm address. And now it is my honor to invite Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Ukraine to North Macedonia, Ambassador Larissa Dir, to address this gathering here. And I want to express my personal and our organization's full support to the Ukraine's freedom, to Ukraine's sovereignty, and to Ukraine's democracy. And we commend you for your enormous historic heroism you've manifested all these years in the fight for freedom and in the fight for Europe's freedom as well. Thank you. It's your floor.
Good morning, everyone. Is it okay? Yeah. Dear organizers of the conference, participants and guests, let me express my gratitude to you, Mr. Jabir Dirala, for the invitation. When I received the invitation to participate in this conference, I agreed, as the topic of defending democracy is very present and relevant for Ukraine at a time of full-scale aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. Considering the title of the conference, Defending Democracy, Horizons of Freedom, the protection of democracy is also relevant for others who, while not suffering from daily shelling, occupation of part of their territory, or constant threats of their lives, suffer from or face a number of challenges related to violations of the principles and components of democracy in peaceful times. Obviously, this is quite understandable, as the process of forming of developing relationship in society within the paradigm of individual, society, state continues both in states that are not affected by war as well as in states that are moving towards European integration amid war with the Russian aggressor. Such a state is Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians are deprived of their rights to decent standards of living, as Russia systematically targets Ukrainian critical infrastructure, leaving hundreds of thousands without power, heat, or other basic necessities of life, especially during the winter months. Due to the special legal regime introduced in Ukraine, martial law, there are certain restrictions stipulated by the law of Ukraine on legal regime of martial law. However, even during the Russian armed aggression, Ukraine continues to demonstrate resilience and commitment to democratic values. The parliament, the president, the government, the judiciary, anti-corruption bodies, local self-government, active civil society, and the media are all functioning. Ukrainians prove with their lives and resilience that the democracy commands a high price. Defending democracy requires consolidation, both internally and externally. The more resolutely democratic states are united in their commitment to fully comply with the sanctions imposed to the Russian Federation, the less resources the aggressor state will have to fuel its war machine. The sooner the United Nations Security Council adopts the long overdue resolution on an unconditional ceasefire, the full ceasefire here and now, that would bring an end to the protracted war, the faster Ukraine will fully restore its rights and freedoms, and the faster Ukraine will notify the UN Secretary General of the termination of the relevant derogations from its obligation under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This is a horizon for us, for Ukrainians. Here in this room today are experts, academics, journalists, military personnel, people who are not indifferent to the pressing issues of the day. Your knowledge, your experience, your ideas will undoubtedly contribute to the formulation of new conceptual approach to the protection of democracy and the development of effective mechanism of countering modern challenges. For us, such a challenge is Russia's armed aggression, which must be defeated by the democratic world. This is horizon for all of us. I wish you all fruitful work, constructive dialogue, and significant results, and thank you very much for your invitation and attention. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Ambassador Dear, and Slava Ukraini. And thank you for your heroism and for your commitment to freedom and democracy, not only in Ukraine, but across the world. I'd like to now invite online, I think they're both already online, our partners, representatives of our valued and appreciated partners. First of all, I'd like to mention that this is a date exactly 1 day, 1 year after the previous conference, which was called Defending Democracy in the Face of War, Authoritarianism, and nationalism. It was exactly 1 year ago when Dr. Wolfgang Gressmann from Youth for Media and Media Dialogue from Germany, and the New European People's Forum, the international organization then led by Mr. Roger Casale, and several other organizations who were with us on that conference. After that, the Defending Democracy Global Initiative was born, and within it, the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine was created and is being extremely active all these months. Do we have Dr. Wolfgang Gressmann now, dear Ariane? Please. Hello, Skopje calling Berlin.
So thank you very much, Xavier. Thank you very much, Mr. Dorella, for inviting me together with my friend Yevhen Simbalenko. We just finished our third stage of media dialogue yesterday in Berlin, and we had together, and this was also a very important thing, we were together with three chairmen of organizations of journalists on the national level. We had the Ukrainian president and chairman of journalists Sergei Tomolenko with us. And he told us about also this work on press on frontline in Ukraine. We got the frontline press. We got several other informations and discussions. And so we know how important it is that freedom of speech, freedom of press in Europe is guaranteed. This is the base of democracy. We had Andrei Bastunets with us, the chairman in exile of the Belarusian Association of Journalists. They know what it means when repressive states are trying to undermine people's right of an own opinion. We had guests from Georgia with us who are telling us about the situation in Georgia at the moment. We had in summer, also the first stage of media dialogue, and what we have seen is the complete struggle for democracy, for human rights, and freedom of press. Freedom of press is one of the most important things for people building their opinion. And we saw a very impressive film about the support of the National Union of Ukrainian Journalists to the frontline papers, and to give the people hope and information. And this was really impressive to see how important media are, because we have a hybrid war. We have this hot war in Ukraine. We have situation in Georgia, which is a frozen conflict. We have still the conflict in Moldova, with Transnistria, and so all over Europe we have conflicts based on anti-democratic forces. And one of the centers, and the most important centers of military aggression and fighting against our rights to live like we want in a democratic sphere, are in Kremlin in Moscow. And from this center, we also have the problem with right-wing populists all over Europe. And even now in the US, this is a thing where Europe has to fight together, to fight for Ukraine, to fight for our democratic rights, to throw this whole part of this whole thesis and pseudo-theory of this right-wing brain terrorists out of our mind and out of our countries by elections. This is an absolutely necessary part for defending democracy in this time. We are under pressure, Democrats are under pressure, but we are, I think, and I believe, also after this experience in Berlin with all the representatives from press organizations all over Europe and Eastern Europe, that we are the majority and we have a chance to win, and we will win, and we support the rights of freedom of speech, human rights, and a free press. And this means, at the moment, supporting Ukraine, supporting the struggle against Russia, against this kleptocratic, autocratic system and thinking in Europe. And so, Xavi and Sibyl, thank you very much that you are on the Balkan, one of our corner points in this whole part of the fight all over Europe, and I'm happy to be with you all, and I'm sure we will win. No pasaran for right-wing theories, no pasaran for people who want to have a war in Europe, and the war in Ukraine must be coming to an end, that Ukraine becomes a strong partner in the European Union. And so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Esman, for your great address, and indeed, no pasaran. Very well-known slogan, and we've been using it throughout the years. It's obviously time to again say no pasaran, now louder than ever. It's my great pleasure to invite Mr. Roger Casale, a great friend of Sibyl and the director of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, And I could say many other things about his great and rich career as a politician, but also as a civil society actor, intellectual, and lobbyist for peace and freedom of Ukraine. But I won't go any longer. I'd like to invite Mr. Casale to address this gathering, this conference, and also to announce that he is also part of the first panel, which is part of the working part of this conference. Roger, hello.
Thank you for all that you and your marvelous team at Seville Centre for Freedom in Skopje, North Macedonia, do to defend democracy and human rights. And let me, on behalf of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, join you and join our dear colleague, Dr. Wolfgang Reisman from Media Dialogue, in welcoming the other panelists and all our guests and all those who are watching today's conference. And Jabir, you are brilliant at bringing us all together. You brought us together last year at this time during Human Rights Week. You brought us together this year during Human Rights Week, and no doubt you will bring us together again next year in Human Rights Week. And we were with you last year, we are with you today, and we will be with you next year. And the reason for that is because we, like you, stand with Ukraine. And we, like you, recognize that the future of Ukraine is the future of Europe. And we, like you, recognize that what this is about is not just territory, it's about our freedom and it's about our human rights. And as you rightly said, out of last year's conference at this time came the publication Democracy, Defending Democracy and Human Rights, put together by Dr. Reisman and yourself and Heather Robertson, who I'm delighted is with you in Skopje today, and we would look forward to hearing from her later on. Came your podcast series, Eyes on Democracy, and came the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. And the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine is an alliance of parliamentarians, of civil society activists, of business people, of researchers who are working with the Coalition of the Willing to make the Coalition of the Willing, the goals and noble ambitions of the Coalition of the Willing a reality. And what are those ambitions? To support Ukraine now militarily and in terms of the economy, to help to build the capacity of Ukraine to be an independent and free state, and of course central to that must be, as Wolfgang has explained, media freedom, now and in the future. And that's why we all have a job to do. Some of us have a big job to do, some of us have a small job to do, and all of those jobs, whether large or small, matter so much to the people of Ukraine. And so once again, I thank you, Jabir and your team, for bringing us together at this time. I thank our dear colleagues who are here with us, and I thank all who are watching this, who stand as we do with Ukraine at this time, now and in the future. No act of solidarity is too small. Slava Ukraina.
Heroyam Slava. Roger, this is the end of the ceremonial part of the opening addresses part of the conference, and I thank every speaker here, and now I'm very glad to invite Heather Robertson to the panel. She will be the moderator of the first panel. She will introduce it, and I will take this microphone away now and let the work begin. Please, Heather, take your seat here.
I'm Heather Robertson. To introduce myself quickly, I have been a researcher and practitioner in the field of human rights and conflict resolution in the Balkans, and in particular North Macedonia, for some 20 years. I have received my degrees from University of California at Berkeley, where I wrote about Macedonia and now North Macedonia, and from Columbia University and the Harriman Institute at Columbia University in New York City, where again I wrote about North Macedonia. Currently, I'm at the University of Virginia, where I continue to research and also do research on the former Yugoslavia and Balkans more broadly. So what will we do on this panel? The panel is called War in Ukraine, Hybrid War in Europe, and the Global Democratic Struggle. So what we will do is we'll examine Russia's war against Ukraine as the central front of a broader global confrontation over democracy, human rights, and the international rules-based order. The speakers will analyze the impacts. Is this okay? Oh, thank you. The speakers will analyze the impacts in Europe and beyond of what we call hybrid warfare, by which we mean the type of warfare that combines military aggression, disinformation, cyber attacks, and proxy influence. This discussion will highlight Ukraine's resilience. It will highlight the geopolitical stakes for Europe and the Western Balkans and the global democratic implications of the war's outcome. And we will do that in 1 hour. We'll try. No, we will. To save time, I'm going to introduce the panelists as I call on them to speak. Each will have 5 to 6 minutes in this initial phase. Then I will play a video from our contributor, Professor Edward Joseph, who is a conflict management expert at Johns Hopkins University, who could not join today, but we want to share 2 linked proposals he has just made before a congressional body in the US. And then if time permits, and I really hope it does, I would like to give at least our panelist, Dr. Yevhen Tymbalenko, and possibly an additional participant a moment to respond to what Professor Joseph will say. So I will start if Yevhen Tymbalenko, if he is online. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me. I will introduce you. Dr. Tymbalenko is a Ukrainian media and communications scholar focusing on wartime journalism, information security, and the impact of Russian disinformation on democratic societies. He has worked extensively on analyzing propaganda narratives during Russia's full-scale invasion and on strengthening Ukraine's information resilience through research, education, and cooperation with international partners. I'm sure Dr. Tymbalenko could speak to us on any topic of your choosing. I know that we would benefit from any sort of update on the situation in Ukraine through your frame of analysis. Please, thank you.
So thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. First of all, it is really an honor for me to participate in such a conference. So, as my partner Wolfgang Gressmann said before, we just finished a third stage of media dialogue project where we are talking with our partners from, of course, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Moldova, and Belarus about democracy and how we can support our democracy and how we're losing our democracy right now. So it's really important things, but I would like to change a little bit the vector of our conversation and told you about Russian aggression and how Russian war in Ukraine is not only physical war, but it's also informational war. It's understandable. And 3 years I stayed in Ukraine during full-scale aggression, and then I received invitation from German University of Mannheim, to continue my research in Germany. So I moved to Germany, and now I'm researching how Russian propaganda impact on societies inside of Ukrainian societies here in Germany. So I am not a refugee. I'm a, let's say so, working migrant, but I also use the same informational channels as Ukrainian refugee using here in Germany. And I feel that they are continue stay in their informational bubble, and some forces, some power don't let them go outside this bubble and stay inside and not integrate in society, in German society, or in some way developing. That's why I try to check my idea and launch the project which will research impact of Russia propaganda and forming narratives as a result of Russia propaganda inside of Ukrainian societies. Here in Germany, especially in refugee society. So the field of my study and my research is Telegram channels because they are not controlled, uncontrolled, and it is very easy to share any ideas through these channels. So maybe it's hurt me because I'm Ukrainian, and everything what happens in Ukraine hurts me a lot, and maybe I'm not enough objective. That's why I need to prove my idea, or not to prove. It's better to that it's not true. It's just my feelings. But still, I want to check it and make some research. So also, as a result of our conversation during our previous project, we are all partners from different countries, understand that we are fighting not only for our lands, not only for territory, of course, it's very important, but we're also fighting for our national identity. We're fighting for our freedom and to be independent in our ideas. So this is my short speech for now. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cymbalenko. That is much appreciated. Our next panelist, I believe he's on, is Roger Casale, who we just heard about. We just heard from in the introduction, but quickly, I'll tell everyone again. Roger is the director of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. He is the co-founder of the Defending Democracy Global Initiative and a former member of the UK Parliament. Roger Casale is a British human rights advocate. He, as I said, a former British MP and founder of the New Europeans International, and he's been heavily involved in advocating for Ukraine, traveling in multiple places in Europe to speak to parliamentarians about support for Ukraine's freedom, security, and recovery. Roger, it's so good to see you, and I know we would benefit from receiving an update on your work, and also how you communicate when you are communicating with policymakers and parliamentarians. How do you communicate the geopolitical stakes of Ukraine for all of Europe and really the world, and what kind of traction are you seeing in these efforts?
Hello again, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to share a few reflections with you on behalf of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. And in answer to your question, Heather, about how to get traction on this issue, I think the first thing I would say is to remind people that we mustn't see the Ukraine conflict in isolation. The front line of the conflict in Ukraine is not the border of Ukraine. We have cyber attacks in Europe and around the world. We even have the overfly of Polish and Lithuanian territory, drone attacks, and so on. And we also need to remember that we are in the eye of a global conflict. We've been, in fact, as a global community, on the road to a new new world disorder for some time, and we need to see the Ukraine context also in that vein, because we are in Human Rights Week, and let's not let that moment pass without sending our congratulations to the legitimately elected president of Venezuela, to Marina Machado, who had to escape from her own country wearing a wig to be able to join the celebrations following the award which her daughter had to receive in Oslo of the Nobel Peace Prize, while Vladimir Putin gets on the phone to President Maduro, who stole the election from her, and Donald Trump bombs outside of the rule of international law Venezuelan oil tankers. This is not something from science fiction and make-believe. This is happening this week while we're having our deliberations about Ukraine. And I think we mustn't lose sight of the fact that we are on a road, and we have been on that road for some time, to a new global disorder, where what counts today is not international law and democracy, it seems, but power. Who has power and who wields power? It is a world of chaos, of confusion, and I'm afraid also of corruption, of great corruption. And the great beneficiaries of this are the authoritarian regimes. And of course, we face a challenge in democracies. And the challenge is, and I know it myself because I won 2 elections in my constituency and I lost the third. And if you have democracy, you have elections, and you can win or lose elections. And so governments understandably are very preoccupied with winning elections. And this introduces an element of instability, which authoritarian regimes don't have to face. So they can wield their power without accountability. And they can sow the seeds of chaos and confusion, which creates enormous problems in democratic politics, but not a problem for them, an opportunity for them. And we need to think very carefully about how we can get across this. And I think one of the things we need to do is those of us who do believe in democracy and human rights, is to come together as we have been brought together today by Jabir Durrell and his brilliant team. And we need to also support leaders, democratic leaders, who are standing up for democracy and human rights. It's easy to criticize them. It's easy to paint everybody with the same brush. We should not do that. We need to recognize leaders such as the Prime Minister of Italy, for example, who is standing with Ukraine. Now, I'm from the centre left. One can have different points of view, centre left, centre right. But this is a moment of crisis for democracy. We are in the eye of an international storm, and we need to stand together. All who want to be democracy defenders, human rights, need to stand together. So that's the second point. And we need to trust our leaders more. We need to mobilize parliamentary support, which is what we're trying to do with the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. And we need to mobilize public support, and we need to trust ourselves more. We need to trust ourselves that we are on the side of history, and that ultimately democracy and human rights will prevail. And we're facing an attack, as I've said, on many fronts. This will be something that is in our living rooms and that is out there in space, in satellite technology and so on, and everything in between. And we have a job to do as citizens to be critical, not just of our leaders. And I say we can be critical, but we need to be broadly supportive of those who are standing with democracy and human rights, but also of what we see on social media and everywhere else. We need to be able to be much more resilient as a society in the face of these hybrid attacks. And one place we can look to learn how to become more resilient is Ukraine, because who would have thought 4 years ago, and we are close to the 4th anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that given the resources that Ukraine had at the time, it would be able to withstand that invasion. Putin has not been able to secure his war aims, and he will not be able to secure his war aims, but the war will continue. And as I've said, the borders are not just in the territory. It's not just a battle about territory. It's a battle about values. And the front line is not just the front line of Ukraine. It's here in our living rooms. And so what we need to do, and what we need to say to politicians and to the European publics, is wake up and realize that the threat that Russia poses is not just to Ukraine, it's to all of us in Europe. And we are not prepared. We are not prepared militarily, and we are not prepared either in terms of the amount of defense spending that we have, or the capacity we have, or the degree, and this is extremely important, the degree of coordination between the different defense systems, because there's no point in spending a lot more money on defense unless we have good communication, unless it's deployable. So what we're seeking to do, and I'll just finish with this, with the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, is to build a coalition and alliance of politicians who can support the leaders in the coalition of the willing in providing more support for Ukraine now and in the future, but can also help to mobilize more public support. You rightly said, Heather, that I was an MP a long time ago, from 1997 to 2005, with Tony Blair and Gordon Brown and Robin Cook and people like that. And when I came into politics, what I came in to do was to promote democracy and the values. And today, in 2025, we have to defend democracy. This book from our conference last year is called Defending Democracy, because democracy is under attack. And I look to all of us in this room, but also not just to the leaders, as I've said before, not just to the leaders and to the parliamentarians, but also to the public. And I think we need to understand that much of the resilience of Ukraine has come from the Ukrainian people themselves. And the future of Ukraine must lie in the hands of the people of Ukraine itself. And the future of Europe must lie in the hands of the citizens of Europe ourselves. And what I would like to see, as well as stronger military support and economic support, is also support for civil society in the European Union, outside Europe, in all of Europe, and in Ukraine, because that is where the real strength is going to come from, and sustainability and resilience in the future, from building a stronger civil society. And this is a point that we try to get across to MPs. We're currently working particularly with MPs from Poland, France, Germany, Italy, and the UK, but other countries as well. I'm delighted to see our colleague Egli here from Lithuania, to really get that message across, that we need to wake up European publics. If you live in Lithuania or Poland, you're aware of the Russian threat, but if you're in further away, perhaps you're not. We need to wake up. We need to understand that this is a threat to our democracies. We need to have trust in ourselves and mobilize our societies to do what is necessary. We know what is necessary. The coalition of the willing has the right ambitions and aims, but actually being able to deliver what is necessary is going to be a huge task, and it's going to require strong engagement from MPs and much more public support. And that is exactly what we're trying to mobilize with the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Roger. Next, I would like to, well, had I known what Roger was going to say, I would have said, oh, well, next I would like to hear from Professor Dr. Oliver Antonov, who will speak on some of these, I think, very prescient issues. But we had a plan, and I think I will stick to inviting Dr. Francesco Gaudiosi next, and then Professor Dr. Oliver Antonov after to speak, but just to we'll close out the online portion. Okay, so Dr. Francesco Gaudiosi is the Vice President and Executive Director of the Centro Studi Internazionali. He is an international security scholar and senior analyst specializing in European geopolitics, transatlantic relations, and hybrid threats. As Vice President and Executive Director of the Centro Studi Internazionali in Italy, he is also a leading contributor to the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. And in those capacities, he advances research and strategic dialogue on the implications of Russia's aggression for regional and global security. Dr. Gaudiosi, I welcome your contribution. Perhaps you could speak about the geopolitical stakes of the outcome in Ukraine and any updates you can provide on your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to see each other, even if online, after our updates and our conference in Rome in the month of October. And so this leads me the possibility also to continue my analysis on how there's many topics, and also the topics that are under discussion and analysis today: the war in Ukraine, hybrid warfare, with regard, of course, to the European region and the delicate issue of the global democratic struggle are influenced and interconnected altogether. Of course, the Russia full-scale invasion of Ukraine is widely condemned in international legal terms as a flagrant breach of international law. It violates the UN Charter principle prohibiting the use of force against state sovereignty and territorial integrity. To this end, I would like to analyze and to briefly, of course, take into consideration the response of the European Union both at the external dimension and in its internal profile, since the European Union has had the chance to respond to Russia's war in Ukraine with unprecedented unity, leveraging both EU law and policy tools in support of Ukraine and European security. That's why I'm speaking of this double dimension, the external and the internal dimension. Of course, we are speaking now, of course, in the recent days of the hot topic of the EU sanctions on Russia that have been expensive, targeting hundreds of individuals and key sectors of Russia's economy, such as energy, finance, defense across multiple rounds. The EU has also frozen Russian state assets, including central bank reserves, and is actively exploring legal ways to use frozen Russian funds. We need to consider 140 billions of euro in immobilized assets to finance Ukrainian reconstruction. And this is, as we all know, a very delicate and interesting topic of discussion at the European level. Moreover, I would like to consider the point that the EU has also launched many initiatives, such as the military assistance mission in late 2022 to train tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers on the EU soils. And so, together with these, the topic of the defense against hybrid warfare that drastically cut reliance on Russian gas is another delicate point that for me is worth mentioning. Since on this topic, the topic of hybrid warfare, the European Union has responded through many legal instruments, such as for example, the Strategic Compass of 2023, the Rapid Cyber Response Team that can assist member states under a cyber attack. And during a recent, this is a very recent update that I would like to point out at an October 2025 summit in Copenhagen, the EU leaders warned that Russia is already involved in a hybrid war in Europe, as the Danish Prime Minister said. They agreed in that occasion to bolster border and aerial surveillance, including plans for the so-called drone wall of sensors and air defenses along eastern borders to stop intrusions. Of course, NATO has welcomed these moves, and several allies have already started joint air policing specifically against drones. And Europe is also working to remove the economic leverage Russia, such as, for example, reducing dependence on Russian gas and diversifying suppliers to blunt the impact of energy blackmail. Finally, I would like to conclude my intervention by saying that the war in Ukraine has been widely framed as a critical front in the global struggle between democracy and autocracy, as Roger, Shabir were saying before. Ukraine is a sovereign democracy whose people chose a pro-European democratic path. And it is being brutally attacked by a state seeking to subjugate it. Many analysts and leaders argued that the outcome in Ukraine will have the far-reaching implication not only for the Ukraine itself, but actually for the future of democracy worldwide. In the West, there is a near consensus that a Russian victory would embolden autocratic regime everywhere, whereas a Ukrainian success would bolster the cause of liberal democracy and the post-1941 international order. So I would say that the trajectories are many, and of course, while the West is largely united, not all countries share the same fervor in this ideological framework and in this ideological framing, such as, for example, China, the global south, that have different vision on this topic. But what is at stake, the outcome of the war, will send a message about the strength of collective security and the fate of the post-Cold War norms. If Ukraine's sovereignty is upheld and Russia's aggression is repelled, it will reinforce the principle that borders cannot be changed by force. A win for the international rule of law and a validation of democratic countries' willingness to band together in defense of these principles. Thank you very much for your invitation, and of course I remain available for any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Professor Dr. Oliver Andronov to the panel. He is here with us today. Professor Oliver Andronov comes to us from the Department of Security and Crisis Management at the Military Academy, General Mihailo Apostolsky, here in North Macedonia. Professor Dr. Andronov is a leading expert in defense studies, crisis management, and security policy. He is a veteran analyst of regional geopolitics, examining hybrid threats, military doctrine, and the evolving security environment in the Western Balkans. His academic and public engagement includes extensive work on Ukraine, democratic security, and the implications of Russian influence operations in the region. Dr. Andronov, I've read your work. I've read your really prescient analysis on the civil media platform on the ways that the Russian hybrid warfare has operated in North Macedonia, how it can exploit, how it can exploit local historical grievances, ethnic fragmentations, and you write of how this hybrid warfare is transforming as well. So what could you tell us about that?
Thank you very much, Heather. Are you hearing me? Yes? Okay. Thank you very much, Heather, for you present to me. But generally, I am the professor of the defense and the peace and development and conflict resolution. It is my doctoral thesis. But the conflict, it's not only the internal conflict, it's the general is the external conflict, the conflict in the international community. Today we speak about the hybrid traits, but I would like, on the beginning of my expose, that we have a hybrid war, the brutal hybrid war, and the state it's not in the out of the impact on this hybrid war. They are the members on the hybrid war, and I don't speak today like the professor exactly, because if I start to speak like the professor, you're my colleague, you know that we can to speak about the definition of the terms, but it is the big classroom speech. I would like to speak in the short like the expert, especially in the couple terms. General, the Russian war against the Ukraine, it's not only an assault on Ukraine's statehood, but a directly strategy offensive against the Europe, against the NATO. The Kremlin's objective is to weaken Europe's democratic cohesion through military pressure, hybrid operations. I tell that it's the hybrid war, it's not the only operations, exactly like the really hybrid war, and narrative manipulations designed to fracture society resilience, undermine defense support for Ukraine, and erode trust in Euro-Atlantic institution. It is the main point about the three key concepts illustrate the current landscape in the Europe, but in the world, the general. It is the resilience, defense, and very interesting, sovereignism. If we was on the lecture, I will start to speak from the sovereignism and the fourth theory, ideology theory of the Dugin, because it is the basic of the attack in the Europe and in the NATO. But we will start in the another list, start from the resilience. Without the definition, the resilience refers to the ability of the society to withstand pressure, adapt, and resist foreign influence. But not exactly foreign influence. We have very often the influence in the society, the spring for the society. Ukraine has demonstrated exceptional society and institutional resilience, rapid military adaptation, civilian readiness, continue of essential service under attack, and strong moral. This resilience has been crucial in countering both Russia's military aggression and its disinformation campaign. The open question is how resilient smaller European society, such as our country, Macedonia, are two similar hybrid pressures. A question required transparent assessment from institutions, academia, media, and political actors. Maybe I have some very big group of the questions about the preparing to Europe to transformation from the normal peace function in the war function, because we have the seriously problem. Problem is the undermined, under thinking, under understanding what the happened reality in Ukraine and what the happened reality in our society. The second term is the defense. Defense encompasses the state's capacity to protect his territory and population. It's the basic aim of the all states, because across the defense we must to protect the territory, like the state territory, and population on the biologic minimum for life. Because territory without the nation, without the people, it's not the state. It is the pillars of the states. Ukraine's defense system has shown us organizational strength, support disseminated by NATO and EU partners. Russia's hybrid efforts increasingly aim not only to break Ukraine's defense from within, but to disrupt and discourage Western military, financial, and political support to Ukraine, a core vulnerability Moscow systematically targets. In this concept, we must be together, all of us. When I speak the all of us, not the personality, all of us, but it's not more significant to be personality oriented to support the Ukraine. I speak the must to be oriented like the states, like the members of the NATO and the EU, and the partners with you, the states who make the steps in the EU. And truth of the term is the sovereignism. It is the exactly Kremlin engineered narrative used to depict the NATO and EU members as non-sovereignty. One of situation in the last year in the Prague during the GlobSec conference, I have a very interesting conversation with the Greek Minister of Defense, Dendias. I intentionally asked him, like professor on the exam to students, does it the Greek most sovereignty like the member of NATO in EU, or before in the time when the independent? Exactly. The minister answered to me that now, like the member of EU and NATO, there is the most sovereignties because they're using the instrument of the associations. I know this answer, but I would like to only test the thinking in the European Union, especially because we have the problem with Greece in the past. In practice, this narrative of Russia fuels nationalist and anti-Western sentiment of actors in the Balkan. Not especially in the Macedonia, in the whole Balkan is the same situation. They speak about the mythology, they speak about the history, and grow up the nationalism and the anti-Western sentiment. Russia promotes it to weaken Euro-Atlantic integration and destabilizing the state like North Macedonia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Kosovo, tried to Albania. The broader strategic aim is clear. To Russia, strategic is very clear. To use the Balkan as an internal European front and erode the southern flank of NATO, because the southern flank of NATO it's very much the vulnerability. Everything to find the model of the conflict between the Turkey and Greece, Turkey and Bulgaria, Bulgaria with Romania, Bulgaria with Macedonia, Greece with Macedonia, Albania with Macedonia, and everything against everything. Everybody against everybody. The make the steps in the NATO, and it is the not. Good security system to function of the NATO, because the untrusting between the alliance. The hybrid war is therefore not confined to Ukraine. It is a continental challenge targeting democracy, democratic values, institutions, and collective security. It's not only the Balkan. Balkan is the part from them. How to send the Churchill? The Balkan is the soft stomach of the abdomen of the Europe. But it is the truth. So much history, so much mythology have the problem. It is the basic point of the building the hybrid war in the Balkan. Thank you very much, Heather. I will finish here.
Well, thank you very, very much. That was really incredibly useful and insightful. And the points that you make about sovereignty, I think, will actually come up in what we're going to do next. And if we have time, I would be interested in your thoughts. I would also hope that our panelists will stay online as well, because what we're about to do is play. We're playing a clip, two clips from Professor Dr. Edward P. Joseph from Johns Hopkins University, where he is Professor Joseph is an internationally recognized conflict resolution expert with decades of field experience across the Balkans, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. At Johns Hopkins, he teaches conflict management and international security, and he is a frequent commentator on Ukraine, transatlantic security, and Russian aggression, and he has served also in senior roles with NATO, the UN, and international missions. So, as I said, Dr. Joseph is not here today, so we're taking his contribution virtually, and what I'm going to play are two clips from an interview that he gave to Civil this week about two proposals that are linked that he has made before the relevant government body in the United States, that's the U.S. House Committee on Foreign Affairs, and he testified regarding his proposals, which he suggests would be big breakthroughs and ways forward for the Balkans and Europe. Just for clarity, I will summarize really quickly that the first proposal suggests that the path of Serbia and Kosovo into NATO, that this be linked, that the two should be invited together. And he makes a case for the impacts this would have in the Balkans and in Ukraine. And I don't know how much he'll get into it here, but in the wider interview, he gets into how this could actually be consented to. Then there is a second proposal. I'll only summarize it briefly, but that is to implement the Kosovo model that was envisaged and by the UN Resolution 1244, that is the model of creating an international protectorate, not for all time, but for a period of time in the Donbass. So first we'll hear his first proposal where he talks about, you need to go.
One moment, Heather.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will go in the public. And
okay.
Before I would like to salute to Roger and Wolfgang.
Sorry? Oh, I mean, if you'd like, you might want to comment on this. You don't have to,
no
but you might really. This is very relevant.
Does the public to look at this?
Oh, they'll see. They'll see. Yeah. But yeah, everyone can.
Okay. No
but
problem.
I think you might be very interested in commenting on this. So we'll do the first proposal first, and then. Yes, please.
First, thank you very much for this opportunity, and great to be with you and your important audience there. And the answer to the question is, my approach would have transformative impact in the Balkans and supplementary significant impact on the effort to end the war in Ukraine. So these are two different levels of impact. The greatest impact will be absolutely transformative in the region, which has indirect impact on the war in Ukraine because it puts additional pressure on Vladimir Putin. My approach would see Russia lose, and China, Russia and China, both lose their primary avenue of influence in the region. One statistic on China, let me just share. 96% of Chinese foreign investment in the Balkans is, guess where? In Serbia. And for Vladimir Putin, in the Russia context, Serbia is the platform through which Russia still has influence in the region, and especially by exploiting the Kosovo issue, which he has applied in the Ukraine theater as well. And we should be very clear about that. That for Putin, these matters are in his head, are quite pertinent, and I would even say emotionally for Vladimir Putin, who sees the Kosovo 1999 NATO strikes on Kosovo in very personal terms when Russia was weak and marginalized, and sees this as part of his overall grievance against the West. This classic statement where he said the greatest catastrophe in history was the collapse of the Soviet Union. Kosovo typified that. It was the proof of that. And he carries around this burden, and I say just very concisely that bringing Serbia into NATO, after Putin has made this career of assailing the 1999 Kosovo strike and using that as justification in Ukraine, this will have a significant impact. I would compare it to the sinking of the Moskva. By removing Serbia from Kosovo's orbit, bringing Serbia into NATO, this is basically taking away Russia's Moskva in the Balkans.
Okay, we will discuss that first clip, but first we'll play the second, where Professor Joseph is speaking of implementing the Kosovo model envisaged by UN Resolution 1244. That is the model of creating an international protectorate, not for all time, but for a period of time in the Donbass. What I will say is that just given who we have in the room, I won't be surprised if I hear a gasp or two. This could bring some controversy, this proposal, but I would love for us to all hear it and then discuss it.
3 reasons. One, for the United States and its partners who are trying to negotiate and bring an end to this war, as the White House, of course, is the one leading this effort. 2, what it would give to Ukraine, and 3, what it would give to Russia. Because you have to remember, Russia's a factor here, and no peace works unless you can get both sides to accept it. But why does the Kosovo model? Now, of course, the Kosovo model requires a pressure that in this current context doesn't exist. But we have to remember, this current effort can collapse. The ball is in the court in Moscow after this recent meeting, and this could collapse. And when it collapses, then people will say, well, what do we do now? We're just giving up? And so you could have a tension. The advantage of the Kosovo model, this is based on after the NATO bombing, 1244. You have, first of all, you have the context where Vladimir Putin is the champion of 1244. So even though people say, well, that's different, Serbia was defeated. Yes, but we have Vladimir Putin who is constantly championing the 1244 and saying there has to be full respect for 1244. And what else does Vladimir Putin say? He says Kosovo and Ukraine, and this is a quote, are absolutely the same. That's what he continues to, both in actions and in words, including with the UN Secretary General. And he said, and he says, basically, NATO did this to Ukraine, to Kosovo, I can do it to Ukraine. So we have a context here, even though you can say, well, this is different and that's different. Well, Vladimir Putin doesn't see any difference. He repeatedly says the two situations are the same. So what does this achieve, the Kosovo model? The 1244, the essence of it was it neither declared Kosovo independence independent of Serbia, nor did it deny. It neither declared nor denied. It came in this middle ground. And that's what's so important for the U.S. as a negotiator here, because we know what the key problem is, the security guarantees. We know that. And we know that Russia, of course, wants to press the advantage, and Ukraine insists on its security guarantees. So we know that. So the beauty of the Kosovo model, the first for the negotiators, is it takes the question of sovereignty out of the picture. So it's no longer this question of who owns the Donbass. And once you take that out of who controls this, you make it much easier for the sides to negotiate on the other issues. And that's, here we come to this part B, as I said, 3 parts. For President Zelensky, he will be able to say, look, this region is still part of Ukraine. And eventually, under this Kosovo model, there will be a referendum. And he will tell his citizens, our citizens, because there will be peacekeeping troops will come in, as in Kosovo, because there will be UN administration, as in Kosovo, or OSCE, also present in Kosovo. Because of that, our citizens who are now displaced from there will be able to return. And then eventually there'll be a referendum. And the people will decide. And he can say this to his people rather than being forced to now just give away the land. And what will that allow for Vladimir Putin? That will allow Vladimir Putin first to see the sovereignty. There will be zero exercise of sovereignty in any of this territory by Ukraine. So formally, Zelensky can say this, but just as we see in Kosovo, Serbia is not able to have any show. There's no flags or any even symbolic shows of sovereignty, and that will happen. So that Putin will get that. And more importantly, what does Putin really want? And why is this plausible? Putin wants territory, and he wants more than just these additional parts that, around Kherson or Kharkiv, that they're discussing. He wants more. He wants maximum that he can get to have maximum pressure on Kyiv. And guess what? Under my approach, under the Kosovo model, Ukraine can afford to give more territory, to put more territory at risk that Putin wants, that his forces do not control now, and theoretically may never control. But under my approach, Ukraine will be ceding more territory, even territory that some would say, and Ukraine would say, this is very dangerous, because if this goes to Russia, this will put our capital at risk. So he can afford to do that because this is going to a third party. There will be peacekeeping troops, and this will be under UN administration, and all of this will be ratified at the Security Council, which Putin wants, and there will eventually be a referendum. So in this, do you see, in this sense, each side is gaining something. So for Putin, he might say, well, look, I like this Trump approach better, or I want to take my gains immediately and have them. But under my approach, he potentially could get more, but they have to stop the fighting, and he has to allow these insertion of peacekeeping troops, and he has to say that this is going to be all subject to an internationally managed referendum in the end. Yes, he has to accept that. But remember, the argument, if you were real American, true, trying to negotiate, you have a very strong argument. Because you just say to him, well, Vladimir Putin, we're just doing what you say you insist upon in Kosovo, and what you say is absolutely the same. And that's my argument.
Okay. I think we're going to need maybe 5 more minutes, but I believe we started 5 minutes late. I'm not sure who we still have online. I believe Yevhen Tymbalenko is no longer online. I would really like to hear from Professor Andronov about some of these questions of, you were making points about sovereignty, how sovereignty can be seen to even increase when countries are part of international organizations like the EU and NATO, and what your thoughts might be about what is being proposed here. If you don't mind being put on the spot like this.
It is is very clearly that the state make the sovereignism on the traditional basic of the state. It is the territory, nations, language, and culture. In the international communication, we don't have strictly sovereignism, because the entering in the international organization, we give the part from our sovereignism for the take the more power in the international community. In the practice, it is the example, the Macedonia alone, like the territory is the small, like the population is the small, like the economy is the small, but the speaking that it's the Macedonia can to have the equality power in the international community, like the one USA or maybe one Russia, China, United Kingdom, French, like the members of the UN and the Security Council with veto steps. It's not. It's everything clearly for everyone. But if the Macedonia to be the part from the European Union, our sovereignty will grow up. How? In the European Union, we can to have the rights like all of the members in the European Union, and we can to be part from the decision making in the European Union, like the global actor. It was the point of my speaking with the Dendias last year, because it is the grow up of the sovereignty of the state. If we try to understand the fourth political ideology from the Dugin, we can to see that Russia made the permutation of the overview on the sovereignty, and it is the very interesting the excluding the conservatism like the theory, but the using the conservatism in the building of the theory of sovereignism like the values, but it's not the true, because the true is the authoritarianism. The sovereignism, the cover like the term authoritarianism. And the short comment of the Edward. We meet with Edward a couple months ago in the Budva conference, and he has a very interesting statement, the public statement, it's not the private statement, that the European Union, that for the European Union finished of the time of the Kennedy, that the USA will fight for the democracy in everything in the world. Today we can to see what how happened the international politics in the USA. It is for us, like the Europeans, it must to be the indicator and must to be motivation for the grow up the European security and go against the Russia attack in the Ukraine more. And in this context, it's not can to have a same overview in the situation in Kosovo and Serbia and Ukraine and Donbas and Lugansk area, especially the question about the Crimea, because we have the 10 years ago the situation that the Russia speak and in the constitution put these three areas. It have the very, very interesting logic from the Russian side looking that they want the all control of the territory. It's the against of the international law. It is the clearly aggressive, but we have the very big problem in the ground, and Russia against the using the situation in the Balkan for himself, like the empire grow up.
Thank you. That is, I wish we could keep going, because this is really helpful and useful. I believe we have Roger Casale online. If we don't, I would invite Jabir Durralla to come up and speak a bit about this interview that these excerpts were taken from. But if Roger's here, perhaps, Roger, you could speak a bit about what you heard from Professor Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Well, Edward is a very clear-sighted man, and he has set out a very interesting proposal. And I think the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, we can get this proposal discussed with Alex Sobel MP, the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group in the UK Parliament, and hopefully with the help of Francesco and Emanuele Ericchiello from Centro Studi Internazionali, with colleagues in the Italian Parliament. And we need clear thinking and strategic insight, and it was very interesting to hear Oliver's comments. I just think that where we are at the moment is we need a ceasefire in order for a kind of political process, which is what Edward is talking about, to open up. Unless we have a ceasefire, unless we have an end to the killing and the violence, we can't open the kind of dialogue and opportunities where there's something in it for everybody, as Edward has described. We need to have that ceasefire first. And I just fear that Putin's not really interested in a ceasefire. He's running a war machine, and he wants to keep running it. And so we need to arm Ukraine so that it can defend itself. And that's the way to get a ceasefire, is to give Ukraine the means to defend itself militarily. And we need to do the same in Europe. Because, while Edward was speaking yesterday, Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, was speaking at the Munich Security Conference outreach meeting in Berlin, and saying that Europe needs to prepare for war. But I think Europe is already at war, and we know that has a cybersecurity dimension. We heard from Yevhen about that, and we also know, we heard from Francesca, we also know that we cannot lose this fight. It's part of a global conflict, and to lose the war in Ukraine means to lose the fight for the future of Ukraine, the fight for the future of Europe. So very happy to see how we can get a wider airing for Edward's very clear-sighted views and discussion. And I was involved with Kosovo quite a lot myself when I was an MP, and it's important to learn from experience and to apply it to today. But I think the priority must be to make sure that Ukraine has the arms it needs to obtain a ceasefire, because unless we strengthen our defences, we're not going to see a ceasefire. Putin's interest is in continuing to prosecute the war, and we must trust. I repeat my message before: we must have faith and must have trust in ourselves. And as Oliver said, we must stand together. We must cooperate. The whole thing is going to be very, very, very messy. It's going to be very costly. We're going to have to, somewhere along the lines, make compromises, and certainly we're going to have to make sacrifices. But in the end, we will prevail, and a political process will open up. And I think it's vital that we use this time, and perhaps just make this my final point, to do as Edward's doing, is to think about the future, even in the present crisis. The new Ukraine and the new order in the world will emerge from this conflict. We don't know what it looks like yet. We're a little bit like the wise men on their journey at this time of Christmas. We're not exactly sure where we're going, but we do know why we're traveling, and we do know who we're traveling with, and we are following our values, and that is what is going to be our compass and going to orientate us as we build the new world order together, starting in Ukraine. So yes, these discussions about political process in the future are absolutely vital, and they need to take place now. But the priority must be to defend Ukraine, because we should be under no illusions whatsoever about the threat posed by Vladimir Putin to Ukraine, to Europe, and to the global order, and his determination to continue to prosecute the war. And the only way to stand up to a bully is to show your strength, and that's what we need to do now, collectively, urgently, and with all the resources and resolve that we can muster. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Roger, very much. I wish that we had more time, but it's 11:42, and we want to keep the conference moving. So let's do that. Thank you so much for all of our to all of our online contributors. Thank you so much, Professor Andronov. This has been a real pleasure, and thank you everyone for coming.
Okay. Let us continue with the second panel. The second panel is about AI, disinformation, and the post-truth and the post-shame world. And I hope that our invitees are also online. I will just quickly look at my colleague Aryan. All right. Well, let me introduce briefly the speakers at this panel. It's Lina Kush, First Secretary of the National Union of Journalists of Ukraine, Egle Cheleshene, CEO and researcher and social innovation developer of the Lithuanian College of Democracy. And here with me in person are Marian Zabarchanets, communications specialist and the former government communication director. And next to him is Army Colonel, retired, former head of the military service for security and intelligence at the Ministry of Defense of North Macedonia, Colonel Goran Vasilevsky, who was yesterday at a similar panel in Macedonian language that was held within this Human Rights Week within the Defending Democracy Horizons of Freedom program. It's great to be here with these people, and it's my honor to invite Lina Kush, our friend, our colleague, and our partner, who is calling from Ukraine, and who is with her organization, a person who has a great experience from frontline journalism, and a great experience in providing help and support to journalists in crisis in Ukraine and all these years, and also a person who has been serving as a bright example of high professionalism and of professional ethics that can serve as a global example, as a global model of the importance and the engagement of journalists and media in general. Aryan, do we have Lina still online? I'd like to. Okay. Dear colleague, Lina.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello to everyone. Thank you, Jabir, for introducing me, and thank you to all participants of this important conference. Joining to you was challenging to me. because now I am in Kiev in Ukraine, and we have severe power outages last week. And for example, today I have only 3 hours with electricity per working day, and some hours during night. So it was challenging to join the conference and to find a relevant connection. Saying about AI disinformation impact and impact of our big tech platforms, we see that while social media has been the main channels of spreading disinformation over the past few years. Now, generative AI models such GPT have now joined the fray, and the social media reinforced by AI-generated content leaves ordinary people in a virtual space, no chance to escape from it and from its harmful influence. How does it manifest itself? The spread of Russian narratives in Ukrainian social media, in Ukrainian segment of social media. For example, exaggerating the successes of the Russian army and denied the Russia's war crimes. AI can use democratic tools and approaches to spread the disinformation. For example, like different versions of, including absurd ones, about Russian war crimes, like it was with the case in Bucha, like it was previously with the case of aircraft MH17 and so on. This is done so that the absurd versions become the subject of discussion. And as it happening with the so-called peace deal. Early this year, no one can believe in any peace deal, in any peace agreement, given that part of Ukraine remains occupied, and Russia no intention to return these occupied territories. But now, as we see, thanks to big tech platforms, thanks to Russia's effort in spreading disinformation all over the world, thanks to AI opportunities to generate the content on every topic. And now the terms of this agreement have been published in the media and being discussed on all social media, on all networks, and very fact of discussing such an agreement no longer seems strange. Now, all over the world is discussed not violation of human rights, of injustice, invasion, or, for example, Russia aggression against Ukraine, and so on and so on. And the only attempt of UN Safety Council member to invade the territory, the other's sovereign country. But now we discuss the terms of this agreement, of what territories Ukraine should live and what territories should be adopted or by all the world as Russian territories, and other terms of this so-called peace deal, but not we don't discuss the real problem. The first reason was the Russian aggressions. And we don't discuss, for example, the responsibility. We don't discuss the justice for victims, justice for survivors. It's because of that. It's a very sensitive topic for Ukraine. So Ukrainians, they demand justice, and they demand punishment for aggressor. It's not appropriate to get any deal without justice for survivors, without justice for victims and their relatives. It's inappropriate. And at the same time, big tech platforms are becoming the ruling class in the information society, maybe. And we, as a journalist, we still think that we can choose what to write, what to publish, what to show our audience, but the experience of Ukrainian media and Ukrainian journalists, which has faced blocking and content restrictions, it shows that there is digital censorship in the internet, and the largest platforms restrict content that contains information about Russia war in Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers. For example, we have example when one journalist from Dnipro region in Ukraine, he has YouTube channel, but before 2022, it was the channel dedicated to football, and he had maybe 700,000 of subscribers, and many people watched the videos. But after 2022, journalists moved to the other topic and started to invite war experts, or started to talk about the war, about politics, and so on. And YouTube moved this channel into a so-called shadow ban, and now every video can gather maybe hundreds of viewers, not hundreds of thousands like early, but hundreds of viewers only. Many Ukrainian media outlets face this problem, and the digital platforms determine how we communicate, what we have to write, with what words, and with what illustrations as well. Media materials, media content that past the editorial control inside media, it is evaluated from social media platforms, from big tech. It's evaluated on and could be banned, could be deprived, and so on. Even, for example, our president of our union, Sergei Tomilenko, early this year, he published the post on Facebook platform about the wounded Ukrainian female journalist during the Russian attack. And he published about this case and illustrated it by the pictures of wounded journalists. And it goes to Facebook ban without any opportunity to stop, without any opportunity to solve this problem for 1 month. So this public figure, like a president of the largest journalist union, was banned when he shared the news about journalists. It's really dangerous for our profession, for our occupation, and dangerous for freedom of speech and for free sharing the news about Russia aggression in Ukraine. Ukrainian scientists and experts, they view posts through not simply like as a phenomenon, but as a systematic tool for creating a parallel reality. This is described in particular detail materials on occupation education in the captured territories, on the occupied territories. And we see how Russia, after taking this territory, Russia tried to form this parallel reality and made this brainwashing, especially among students, children, creating cross platforms of circulating different fakes and creating this system to raise the so-called loyal citizens. And research shows that, for example, Telegram as a platform became the starting point for most of Russia's disinformation actions, but not only Telegram. Russia is successful in sharing fake news through the other social media. What can we do, like journalists or like Ukrainian citizens? At first, to develop the fact-checking organization as a domestic response and develop fact-checking skills among journalists, increasing these skills among journalists. We have an example of all-national fact-checking test organized by our Minister of Culture several years every year. And as I remember, last fact-checking test gathered over 200,000 participants in Ukraine. We need to exchange the information between journalists and civilian activists in different countries, because we need to expose Russia fake news and networks and propaganda networks and on different platforms, including AI models. I see how these networks circulate in different countries and spread content that undermines the trust to all authorities in different countries, and undermine the trust in European institutions and undermine the trust in European values at all. Defending these values every day with common efforts should be our task and our mission. Thank you for your deep understanding the situation, and thank you for your solidarity, and I hope for the future collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina, for this exclusive speech and contribution to this conference. And indeed, thank you for the fight, and thank you for giving a great and brave example to the whole world. And please stay with us for the rest of the panel as long as you can, having in mind that we are aware that you are in a very difficult situation now under the fire of the Russian aggressor. Well, I'd like to also mention that we here in Skopje, in North Macedonia, are closely following the situation. We are trying to do our best to help and to counter the Russian aggression, also in the media sphere, in the Russian propaganda assault on democracies, because this is one and the same fight. And I can assure you that we in civil, but also in other organizations, have knowledgeable people who can help these efforts to take place towards the successful repelling of this long-standing, ongoing aggression in both kinetic and media sphere. I'd like to go on with this panel with the people that are here in Skopje with us. I already introduced Mr. Marian Zabrčanec and Colonel retired Goran Vasilevsky. First of all, I'd like to get your takeaways, Marian, from what Lina has expressed, and then please give us your stance and your findings about Marian. I thought Marian, yeah, or you have a mic. You don't need that one. Right. Thank you. So after your comments, please your takes on what we heard from our dear colleague Lina from Kyiv, Ukraine. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jabir. Thanks for Civil for the invitation. We heard how Ukraine is dealing with not only narrative attacks but real war attacks. And I would like to say that it's good to be together with people who still believe in facts, in values, and in democracy. We know what propaganda looks like. We know what is pressure, what are threats and dirty campaigns, and how do they look. But today, with artificial intelligence, this hybrid laboratory is going global, faster, and even more powerful and more dangerous. Today, the disinformation is a weapon and not just a noise anymore. For many years, people were understanding disinformation only as a noise in the public sphere, something annoying but not so existential. And I think that we were all making a mistake while we were reasoning disinformation that way. Because disinformation is not only about wrong facts, it is a part of a wider hybrid attack on democracy values, institutions, and even on the social trust. It creates real conflict between the citizens, between different groups and communities, between peoples and between nations and states. First as a war of narratives, and then as a war on the ground, as we are seeing every day through the Russian aggression on Ukraine. AI is a new engine for this war. With AI, one person or a small team can produce thousands of messages, videos, images every day, every second. Then they can copy faces, they can produce voices, and they can stimulate emotions. They can target specific groups with specific lies. They lie, they're debunked, and they continue to lie. AI gives them speed, scale, and power. It makes the weapon of disinformation cheaper, but smarter and harder to detect. But blaming the artificial intelligence will not help us to defend the democracies. And this is crucial. AI is not exclusively a tool of manipulation. So we should see what can we do with AI in order to provide and to achieve our goals. For example, democracies, journalists, and civil society can use the same tools to defend truth, to expose networks of lies, to amplify facts, to reach people who are isolated in their bubbles. A good journalist with AI can verify information easier and faster. An educator with AI can create personalized media literacy lessons. An activist with AI can expose disinformation campaigns and track their sources. So the question is, should we be afraid of AI? I don't have the answer, but I do have a perspective which says that if Democrats, journalists, and civil activists remain passive, while autocrats and disinformation architects build their AI systems, we will remain in this situation where those who are dealing with disinformation are still more powerful. But if we invest in AI tool for truth, for transparency, for accountability, then we really have a good chance. My second point is about the situation in North Macedonia and in Western Balkans in general. I would state that if I want to describe the situation with one sentence, it would be weak media, strong manipulators, and a government that makes it worse. We know that we have many outlets, especially here in North Macedonia, many media outlets, but often it is an illusion of pluralism. There is a copy-paste journalism, political and economic pressure towards the media, captured media, journalists face low salaries, threats, and even direct attacks. We were witnessing here 2 days ago a direct attack during a live political talk show on an independent media and independent journalists from a person that declared that he is attacking them because they are criticizing the prime minister. At the same time, the same prime minister goes out in public and says that journalists and media should be careful about how and what are they reporting, because now it's a festive time, it's New Year's time, and that the media should report for more positive topics, not just declaring the negative in the society. He even stated that there was a moment at Sunday at 2 p.m. when the air in Skopje was cleaner than the air in Belgrade and in Sarajevo. And the media didn't report it. So the prime minister was teaching and pushing the media to report more positively during those festive times. So when a government stops defending the transparency, when they're making the government transparency lower and lower, and when the media stopped being financed as they were in the past by independent donors, we have a clear situation of vacuum who is used by manipulators, and they're filling this vacuum with their messages, with disinformation and wrong facts. At the same time, the new AI tools arrive in newsrooms and on social media, and they can really help us. They can really help the activists, the journalists, and the academia to analyze data, to translate, to verify. But in our region, they are more often used to speed up low-quality content or to produce and reproduce manipulative material. And the third point would be that in those times, the geopolitics takes over the narrative. Suddenly we all deal with geopolitics. I think that this is the third time in this and the last century when the globe is dealing on a citizens level with geopolitics after the World War II and after the Cold War. We are all experts of geopolitics. We have the geopolitics in our pocket on our phone. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it clearly shows that those anti-NATO, anti-European narratives are taking over the control of the thoughts of the people and of the communities. If you ask me what can we do and what we should do, I am close to what the previous speaker said. I will repeat some of the advices and some of the things that I think we can do. First is to pressure more for transparency and accountability. Civil society journalists and active citizens must keep demanding answers. Who owns the media outlets? Who pays the campaigns? Who stands behind different Facebook pages, Instagram pages, Telegram channels? If we do not ask loud questions, disinformation networks will continue to grow in the dark, and the pressure must be directed at all powerful actors. The foreign ones, but also the local ones, including government institutions who refuse to be transparent, but facing and exposing their non-transparency will make the situation more clear. Second, we should invest in AI tools, and we should produce more content with and without AI. Fact-checking is important, but it is not enough, unfortunately. We need to invest in AI that help journalists detect synthetic media, that help researchers to map disinformation networks, and that help activists to expose those coordinated, inauthentic behavior. AI is not expensive, but it's strategic, and that's why we should use it. It's easy to be used. It's just a matter of how do you use it. I'm pretty sure that for every piece of propaganda, we need at least 2 pieces of quality content. We need complex issues to be presented in a simple language. It's not easy, but AI can help us. We need to invest in digital and media literacy in academia, in communities, and also among adults, not only among youngsters. Because AI tools will not disappear, so our citizens must learn how to recognize manipulations and how to protect themselves. And we should help citizens in order to teach them how to recognize manipulations. And the third thing is connected to the EU, the Europe, but European Union as an organization, as an alliance. I think that we should continue interacting strongly with the European Union. I think that at the moment, EU is our strongest ally in this geopolitics situation. EU also has to deliver here in the Western Balkans and especially in North Macedonia, because when you have disappointed citizens and when you have citizens who feel fear, then that's a perfect ground for manipulators. So if we continue pushing EU to collaborate and interact with us, and if we convince EU to deliver what they promised, I think that it will be more difficult for the manipulators to achieve their goals. I'm ready to come up later with...
Thank you. I'd like to get a couple of points cleared right away. First of all, it was an excellent point to make also at this international platform where our international partners are viewing and closely following this, and it will be also presented in our media platform in English language as well. It is appalling to see an attack on a journalist or in a newsroom office like we saw. It is appalling to see a government that is directly or indirectly encouraging hate and violence against media and against media professionals and journalists. And let me join you in this condemnation of violence against journalists on my behalf and also on behalf of the organization that I represent, Civil Center for Freedom. It is unacceptable to see the behavior of the responsible persons in this country that are encouraging hate and violence against journalists. Modestly, this humble speaker at the moment is a target of hate speech and death threats regularly, also a target of strategic lawsuits against public participation, and I'm not the only one. Unfortunately, people that work with us and with you, Marian, are regularly attacked in various ways, and it is a time that we say stop. This needs to stop right now. In regards to what both you and Lina Kush from Kyiv, Ukraine, said about the AI and especially the programmatic presentation that you had, as always, well organized, to the point. I think it should become part of our action plan right after this conference in the following days, and thank you for that. And you said you don't know if it's, and maybe you can comment additionally to that, you don't know if it's for good or for bad, the use of the artificial intelligence in the public communications and in the everyday life of people and so on. I'm paraphrasing now. I would like to comment on that. It is up to us, Maria. It is up to us. It is up to the humans to choose whether we're going to use the artificial intelligence for bad or for good. To use it to improve our lives, to improve the quality of living, to improve the ways of communication, and to improve the life on this planet in general, or to use it to produce disinformation, to produce enormous waves of hate that are always ending in extreme violence and death, whether we use it for destruction. It is up to the humans. And I believe that we are part of that front. Each and every one here, each and every one that will see us should know it is up to each and every individual to take action against the destructive use or misuse of the artificial intelligence. I believe that you will agree with this position, but maybe you can also add to it.
Sure, I agree. I already mentioned that if we do not use AI for our purposes, the other side will continue to use it even more and even more often and even more powerful way. I really think that we should stop being surprised of AI, of manipulators, of disinformation. They are here, they were there yesterday, they will be even more present tomorrow, and we should be aware of that and not being surprised each day and each morning. More important, we should stop acting alone. We should strengthen our connections speaking about the Democrats among themselves. We should speak not only to our audiences, but among us also. We should build coalitions, because that's the way how we will become stronger. And at the end of the day, someone and somebody needs to take political risks to report and to attack the toxic channels, to expose powerful disinformation networks, to invest serious money in independent media and education, to defend transparency, to say no sometimes to easy populism, even when it brings quick likes and votes. If we want to protect our democracies, we cannot remain neutral.
Thank you for these points and for the additional guidelines that you proposed here, and I believe that they should become, all of them should become part of our joint action, joint program. And this Human Rights Week we also used as an organization to establish networks, to establish partnerships, and to bring decisions to join forces in the fight against disinformation, hybrid threats, against misuse and abuse of the AI for destructive purposes. I'd like to share with you that yesterday I had the pleasure to speak to three exquisite speakers at the round table dedicated to the AI from a little bit of different aspects. And one of the speakers at that round table was exactly Mr. Vasilevsky here, who has extensive military, security and intelligence experience, great experience also within the OSCE, a part of being experienced professional within the Ministry of Defense. Mr. Vasilevsky, or Goran, if I may, let's hear now for the international audience, regional and international audience, what are your findings about the AI in this world of post-truth and post-shame world, and what is it to be done there?
Well, thank you, Javier. Thank you for inviting me yesterday on the roundtable, and as well today. I can say that I am a little bit in more comfortable position here than the rest of you. Why? Because until recently, a year and a half ago, I was in uniform, and I had a bad luck to participate in two regional wars directly, and now I'm civilians. Actually, I was civilians after my working duty, after let's say 4 o'clock, when I was home with my children who were civilians. My son didn't join the army; he didn't serve the army at all. My wife, my whole family, except my father, is were civilian. However, so if we are saying, when you're asking me about the artificial intelligence or AI, why I'm comfortable. I will tell you that, unlike the kinetic warfare, when the threat is visible, with AI,
the threat is not visible. And that's why all this uncertainty actually, that we are questioning ourselves and wider international community, could AI bring a positive moment in the future, or it could be use or misuse actually for the very negatives. Yeah, and Lina also mentioned that in AI you have not threats, and as Marian mentioned, you cannot see either there are several bots or only one person who create, I don't know, fake news or generating false videos or whatsoever that could be posed in the media. But on the battlefield, on the real battlefield, as a soldiers, our only intention is to survive, to be alive after the battle. And, Russia cannot occupy or make an invasion in Ukraine with AI. They need to send people there. They're learned in these more than 3 years, in February will be 4 years, they learned how to use this AI, by fighting with Ukraine. And Ukraine did the same with the help of international community. So my personal belief I will remain a soldier until, my last day is that, it's a really wide and so far unexplored space, how these two tools, because we must understand, just recently in Estonia, which is bordering with the Russian Federation, it was held a NATO cyber network. They had 29 NATO member country participant and also partner country actually exploring the cyberspace, and the topic was the power blackout, public health making out of nowhere, and loss of communication in civilian and military society. A loss of communication is a nightmare for all armies. If we don't have a communication between different units, then you cannot, expect to win the battle or to win the war. And this is exactly what the adversaries to the democracy, to NATO, to European Union, are trying to do. To create a chaos, create a vision, fake vision that Europe is just going to be fall, that NATO will be apart, and so on and so far, such narratives, which is not true. My personal belief is that NATO was never stronger, and also European Union finally, opened the eyes and saw that, if they are not united as they need to be, then in the future, the threat for the European democracy and for European values will be really in threat. So this creating fake news, this using of artificial intelligence is not just something that happens recently. We know these affairs with Snowden and Julian Assange. They try to, as you said, we need to prevent, we need to act. They try to prevent. They acted, and we all know how they finish on the end up. By whom? By the democratic country, unfortunately. So Snowden, if I'm not wrong, is in Russia right now, and Assange is somewhere in some embassies, some countries. So we need to ask ourselves if we should prosecute those people who are opening our eyes and show the truth, what is actually happened behind the scene, and protect them to strengthen our democracy and values, or we should, try to protect actual governments and political elites, keep our secret as long as this is possible. And with this AI, that nobody knows where are the limits. Nobody knows when some clever guy will enter in some, I don't know, I just shared with you the link that United Kingdom is unifying all intelligence services under one military intelligence service. So he can enter into the protected files, get all this information, and blackmailing institutions country that we already experienced here in Macedonia a few years ago. So it was shut down on several institutions like ministries, and we had also cyber attack, if I remember well, Marian, on State Elections Commission just before the. So we really need to think how to fight against these threats. And my point, and this is my last sentence for now, is that we really should think how to, because cyberspace is equally important as ground and you know, maritime, the seas, you know, and airspace. So how to unite this military component, how to learn military actually to fight in this cyberspace right now, and that's why this NATO exercises in Estonia was held with the civilian structure that could combine and give the best products out of that for the decision makers, political decision makers on the end. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. I hope that my colleagues and the next panel speakers will allow me to take another 5 minutes, because I have something to discuss with our the panelists here in regards to the capacity of the country and to the political will and to those that are responsible for the country's stability and security and defense. We've been producing a series of early warning reports, and we've been also conducting interviews with people, with experts, including Professor Dr. Stevo Pendarovski, the former president of North Macedonia, as well as Professor Oliver Andonov, who was at this conference in the first panel. Both the reports of civil, including myself as an author, and former President Pendarovski, Professor Andonov, have arguments, have facts to offer that this country, North Macedonia, is no more a target of hybrid threats, but it is a proxy country. They say it, they state it, and they say it loud and clear. I would like to ask you for your opinion and what do you think should be done in this situation, especially in the time when the AI is practically taking over large portions of the public communications with its contents and with the enormous capacity to influence people's emotions in elections, in political processes, in everyday life, and in the political and social life of people. So a question for both of you: do you agree with this, and what do you think should be done? In 1 or 2 minutes only.
North Macedonia was not a proxy country of any other state between 2017 and 2024. Maybe today is a proxy country of Hungary, of Russia, maybe of Serbia. I believe that that statement was either not so good presented or maybe misunderstood. I believe that President Pendarovski thought that Russian influence and disinformation influence was using this context and this landscape here as a proxy landscape. But as I stated, the state, the country, was never proxy of any other state during the period between 2017 and 2024. And I'm stating this as a former communications director of the government of North Macedonia. Of course, there were many influences, especially during the referendum for the Prespa agreement, but with the help of our allies at that time, the international allies, I think that we were successful to defend the society here from those attacks. And why I think that we were successful? Because at the end of the day, we succeeded to mobilize, to motivate more than 600,000 people citizens of North Macedonia to go out and vote for European integration, for NATO, and for the Prespa agreement. That's the biggest amount of votes ever joined for a one mutual goal. If you compare, that's the biggest amount of votes that any winner on any elections won in this country since the independence. So if we take that into consideration, if you take the amount of votes for the Prespa agreement, I think that the disinformators lost that game.
Yeah, thank you. I agree completely with Marian. I will just that North Macedonia never been a proxy country, even in the period that Marian mentioned. I will add that even now Macedonia is not a proxy country, because North Macedonia is a NATO member country. North Macedonia is a candidate for joining EU, and on the end I will be free to say that the government is not Macedonia. The North Macedonia is the people of Macedonia, and as Maria mentioned, the vast majority of the people, of the citizens of Macedonia, are eager to go on this way, to continue on this way toward the European Union now, because we achieved one goal. We became a NATO member country, and now it's turned to become EU. If will be happened. Could be happened earlier or later. That is maybe a part that all of us should, think how to create that kind of this kind of atmosphere in the society, to accelerate these processes for joining European Union. And one of these, factors is Marian just recently mentioned in his previous speech is media literacy. People need to how to be educated, or actually to educate themselves, each individual personally, to raise the level of media literacy, because in this space
or digital literacy.
Exactly, because in this cyber world, in this world of artificial intelligence, if you are illiterate on this media level, then that means that you are in dangerous for yourself. You will be easy. It will be easy for you to manipulate with you and use you as a tool for some different purposes.
Sure. Without intention to go further into discussion or convincing one another into one or another statement, but certainly regarding the people, it's not actually them who decide which way the country will take, but it's the government and governmental institutions that are doing that, and they are the ones that give the character of whether the country is serving some foreign powers' interests or not. And that was the context in which I mentioned the early warning reports of civil and also the interviews with the gentleman I mentioned as well. We're speaking about a real serious threatening signs of certain institutions and individuals within the governing bodies that are approximating our country towards the eastern, Russian interests, and that's becoming more and more obvious, and that's been also an assessment of international experts and some institutions that the country is dangerously parting ways from its constitutional and democratic orientation, also in terms of serving interests of the Kremlin or the Belgrade via Kremlin, or vice versa. That was more precisely my message, and I believe that you understand that. if we don't have, because I can see that Dr. Celestiene is not in the communication. She probably had the trouble to get online with us. So this is where we will conclude our panel, unless you would like to add something. I don't want to be the last one speaking. Will be. Thank you very much indeed for being with us today, and thanks to Lina, who joined from Kyiv in this panel about the AI and the world in the era of post-truth and post-shame, and of course the era of disinformation. I believe that these points will take part in the document that will be produced after this conference and disseminated at the world stage, not only in North Macedonia and the region. Thank you very much once again. We're heading towards the third panel. Ariane.
Hello, everyone, again. Welcome to panel number 3. This is on European and global perspectives on democratic resilience. This panel examines how democracies across Europe and the wider world confront rising hybrid threats, democratic backsliding, and geopolitical pressures. Panelists will discuss shared vulnerabilities, lessons learned, and the strategic choices needed to protect institutions, uphold rights, and strengthen public trust. In this conversation, we aim to outline practical pathways for long-term democratic resilience and collective security. I believe we have 6 panelists who we will introduce as we call them to speak to save a bit of time. Say each panelist has something around 7 or 8 minutes to speak. The more expedient, the more economical we can be, the more we can make space for questions and interactions between the panelists. We will begin with Ambassador Gudrun Steinacker. Is she, Ambassador Steinacker is online? Okay, wonderful. Okay. Okay, well, we will come back to her. Is that...
Egle Celestiene online? Sorry? No, Gudrun,
but can she speak?
I see...
we have Emanuele.
Lithuanian College? Yes. Is this Egle?
He's not on the list. Okay.
All right. Yes, Emanuele is online. We can go on with Emanuele, I think.
Okay, would you like me to?
Yeah.
Or here,
Sure.
Okay. Sure. Thank you for your patience. So we will begin with Emanuele Recchiello, who is the Deputy Director of the Centro Studi Internazionali in Italy. Emanuele is a researcher and analyst specializing in European geopolitics, security policy, and transatlantic relations. As Deputy Director of the Centro Studi Internazionali, he contributes to strategic assessments on global crises, hybrid warfare, and democratic resilience. He works closely with European partners on strengthening regional cooperation and advancing a rules-based international order. Can you hear us, Emanuele? And maybe we...
Yes, I do. Yes,
okay,
I do. Yes.
Wonderful. We'll try to get you up on the screen, but we would love to hear from you. I hope you heard the introduction, what we are discussing today about democratic resilience, and something you know quite a bit about.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction, and I hope you can all hear me. I'm sorry if I'm late a little bit, but I got stuck at something at work. As Jabi and Roger know, like I'm based in London. I'm also like at the London School of Economics, other than my work with the think tank in Italy. I'm not exactly the description was perfect. I think I'm not exactly an expert on transatlantic relations, more on Mediterranean relations, and like I work on the global order from a political economy perspective, kind of. But yeah, I think having said that, there's two issues right now that I really wanted to discuss. I don't know if previous speakers have already tackled this issue, but I'll try and go anyway because I couldn't be here, so like I don't know what has been said so far, but I'll try to follow the discussion from now on. I think there is an issue, and the issue is that the attack to the democratic order and the democratic liberal international order is both from the outside and from within. And this is something that like we really need to think about. Couple of days ago, the USA published their grand strategy. And the grand strategy was pretty straightforward about their position vis-a-vis Europe, but also their position vis-a-vis the world. And the Trump doctrine, pretty clear, states that the US is not looking to build, in its kind of globalist approach, a liberal international order, but is clearly going to a state of great power competition, accepting the multipolar order, and within which they kind of like position themselves as, of course, a superpower competing with other great powers. And I think this is very important. I think this is very important because what has been done so far is trying to, whether you like it or not, but kind of like putting together the more pragmatic realpolitik approach with a normative approach. So saying, well, for example, that was the case even with the European Union, and I'm going to go back to it in a second. You want to cooperate with us? You want to have a political cooperation with us? You want us to, like trade with you? Or, for example, when we were going to developing countries, do you want us to help you with your development? And do you want us to, support you with certain projects, infrastructure, and so on and so forth? Well, there are some conditions. And these conditions are based on you having a rule order governance system, a democratic system, and a certain economic elements embedded to it. So openness to international markets, openness of the domestic market, and so on and so forth. Now, this is disappearing. And this is something that we really need to think about. When we look at both the US from the trade war and now with the new grand strategy, and when we look at the European Union, the last document that was published was the New Pact for the Mediterranean, we see that there's not only a move towards a more pragmatic approach, but there is a move towards an abandonment of the normative aspect, which means democracy, human rights, and so on, which was core. It epitomized the liberal international order. So the question here is, and this is something that I really wanted to kind of stress, this is not just a crisis of democracies. This is a crisis of the democratic liberal international order as a whole. I think we've reached a point when, at least in this phase, it is very difficult to speak about the global system as a global system, at least in its majority, governed by the liberal international order, also because of these very internal dynamics. It is not just Russia anymore, China, and other powers that are kind of competing, projecting their power and offering an alternative model of governance, not based on democracy as we intended, so liberal democracy, representative democracy, and so on. It is also from within that we've accepted the fact that our order and the order within which we are operating has changed. And the majority of it is not democratic. So like my take here is that we really need to be careful not to kind of like give all the analytical focus to the external factors. There's the external factors, meaning what the external powers are doing, what challenges they pose to democracy and the democratic order and the liberal international order is one of the aspects. The challenges now are clearly also from within. Let's look at Europe specifically. I wanted to start with a more macro kind of assessment, but let's look at Europe specifically. We see that we have a rise of anti-European movements. We have a rise of like movements and parties that are clearly like have more authoritarian stances. They're both in governments and not. And even in Europe, this is clear. It is clear that it's not just a matter anymore of the external influence, it's also a matter of something that is changing from within. And it is true that, I mean, like some of these movements and parties have links and are influenced in a way by external powers, Russia inter alia. But it's not the only issue. I think the real question today is perhaps we need to change the way we think about the world, because the world we've been knowing until 2008 does not exist anymore. And I've been arguing this all over because, you know, like I do remember papers, books in the 90s and early 2000 about the triumph of the West, the end of history, Fukuyama, and all of that, right? We were all sure that this was going to last for a long time, if not forever. It was clearly a mistake. It was clearly a mistake. And we are now in a new transition phase. I don't know where this is leading. Like, I don't have any kind of predictive power, but I know that this is leading towards a global order that is not a liberal order anymore. That is essentially a multipolar kind of order, where the majority of the polls are not democratic. And even the poll that is democratic, is allegedly democratic, is kind of like putting to a secondary level the democracy and human rights and rule-based system kind of elements, both within it and in the way it projects its power abroad. And I give you an example. This is the very last document that has been published by the European Commission in terms of external action. I really invite you to read the new Pact for the Mediterranean. That is a clear abandonment by the European Union of its normative kind there's an issue of democracy, there's an issue of human rights and so on, is not. Can you hear me? Okay. It's not a priority anymore. It's, you know, like placed in some sentences here and there, and the main issue is on security and stability and economic relations and migrations, and like, you know, this says something. If in just 10 years we have gone from you want our money, like you want to have a political cooperation with us, you want aid and so on, well, you need to implement these reforms. We want your systems to be democratic. We want the respect of human rights. 10 years later, this is something we don't really prioritize anymore. Well, this is something we need to question. This is something we need to question. It means that the democratic issue is kind of like challenged. The democratic element and the rule-based element is kind of challenged both from outside and from within. It's a twofold kind of like issue. And I'm gonna conclude here resilience, because I mean the title of this panel is about the resilience after all. What can we do? I think I'm really a convinced believer that not in the sense that, of course, like this has to create a civilizational kind of clash. I don't believe in that thesis. Let me be clear about that. But I'm a very strong believer in the fact that exactly because the global order is moving towards something of this kind, as I discussed so far, Europe specifically, also in light of the last US grand strategy, should stand together even more united and say, okay, well, let's be the alternative. Let's be the alternative. If anything, we are the alternative. We can propose like a model that doesn't follow the trend, but instead can still be a model and a point of reference. And I'm pretty sure we have the capability, material and ideational capability, to kind of project ideas of a rule-based and democratic order, and we should pursue that instead of following the trend. To be honest, don't get me wrong, the US is gonna be always an ally. I still believe in the transatlantic relations. This is a fundamental feature of Europe and the European Union. It should continue to be so. But they've made it clear that Europe is not a priority anymore. So it is time for the European Union to grow up, to become an adult, and say, okay, what do we stand for? Do we want to follow the trend? Do we want to follow the trend that where the global order is going, or we want to kind of take a strong stance on what kind of like normative actor we are? And I think this is something we really need to think about today.
Thank you very much, Emanuele. This was a very sobering presentation, speech, and you gave us food for thought and for action at the same time, of course. Do we have Ms. Steinacker now? Because I think I saw her.
Wonderful. So we have Ambassador Gudrun Steinacker with us. Ambassador Steinacker is an experienced German diplomat and senior analyst on Southeast European affairs. She has served in key diplomatic postings, including as ambassador of Germany to Montenegro and to North Macedonia. Ambassador Steinacker remains deeply engaged in regional cooperation, democratic reform, and European integration. As Vice President of the Southeast European Association, she contributes to research and policy dialogue on governance, security, and democratic resilience. Sorry for cutting you off. Ambassador Steinacker, please.
It was very interesting to hear what Mr. Erikiele said and what was said also in the first part of this event. I would like, nevertheless, to object a little bit, particularly what Mr. Erikiele said at the last, that the EU should. But who is the EU? The EU is the smallest common denominator of 27 states, and that is one of the main weaknesses of this organization. And we see that it is too slow and too weak to react to the challenges of our times, and particularly to the challenges of democracy. And in addition, also the EU, like most of our countries, my country, I come from Germany, but equally the country I live in, Austria, we all have embraced a specific form of neoliberal capitalism, which is also, among other problems, at the origin of the multifold crisis we are in now. And so I'm very much hoping for the civil society, which still exists in our countries, in the democratic countries, in the EU countries, but also in countries which are not totally democratic, like, for instance, Northern Macedonia. It's formally democratic, but you talked in the beginning about all the grievances and the problems, which have still to do with the transition from a former communist regime to the capitalist, democratic, liberal regime. Brief and make an end to that. I sent a little paper to Civil only yesterday. Maybe it can be published, referring to inter alia Hannah Arendt, who analyzed decades ago what the impact of constant lying means to the society. And you know about that. And therefore, I would like to remind that the constant lying, which happens particular from the autocrats, an autocrat like Trump, I hardly can remember that he would say anything truthful. And a dictator like Putin and an autocrat like Xi Jinping and all the smaller and medium-sized autocrats in the world, they are lying to the public. They have their media with which they are lying to the public. And the only possibility to react to that is by the civil society. And once again, I would praise the civil for taking up this enormous challenge and support democracy and help people to understand how important democracy is and that it is worthwhile fighting for it. I will stay with this, and I wish for the rest of the conference huge success, and I'm looking forward to read and to watch all what was written, said in the past days and today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Steinacker. We indeed received your paper, which will be published shortly on the media platform of Civil in Macedonian, Albanian, and English language, possibly in German as well. So we should go on, unless we don't have any other changes in the agenda. Who is the next speaker?
Our plan was Tony Popovsky.
Oh, our plan is Tony Popovsky.
Yes.
Mr. Popovsky.
Would you like to?
Well, I'd rather,
okay.
I know him for a very long time, too long, I would say, to be decent to say the number of the years, but certainly over 30 years, I think, 30 plus. So we know each other since we were 3 or 4 years, yeah, right? Okay, sure. Well, Tony Popovsky is a political scientist, and he's one of the founders of the environmental movement in the country, and I would say in the region. And one of his functions was also former Minister of Environment. Yes, he was in politics as well. Yes. However, he's prominent in writing, in analyzing, and working in the area of democracy, defending democracy, but also exploring the national and the regional issues regarding European integration, but also other key issues, including democracy, but also including environment and media culture and so forth. I think you could have been better in presenting him, I'm sure. But now that train has gone, so please take over.
I shall take over asking the questions about.
Yes.
Okay. Well, as you know, we're discussing democratic resilience and practical ways forward. So we would love to hear from you on this topic.
Thank you very much, Jabir. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. What I would like to say is that for me personally, it is a great honor to be with you, my colleagues and friends today, and to discuss this very actual and important topic about how we can most efficiently, effectively address the challenge of defending democracy, not only in our countries, but in the broader Western Balkan regions, as well as within the European Union or in its neighborhood. In that regard, today we have heard a lot of evidence about the magnitude of the problem. There are negative trends, but there are, in parallel, some positive trends, just to have a bit the discussion on the positive foot. As we are also witnessing in the Western Balkans, there is growing energy among the young people. It was a day before yesterday in Serbia, yesterday it was in Bulgaria, so that the Generation Z is now getting more involved into this public debate, also into manifesting their stance more publicly, not necessarily only on the streets, but participating in a more visible way. This is something that personally encourages me, since myself and Jabir, we are really young, but they are younger than us, definitely. About the challenges, I have sent also my address in written, so I will not spend a lot of time on explaining what is going on or defining them, because a lot was said already. Maybe what I would like to do is to reflect briefly, since this is the topic, on the key findings from the latest edition of the Economist Democratic Index, which provides an important global perspective. It concludes that global democracy continues to decline at the global level, with the average score dropping to 5.17 and shrinking a number of full democracies. This is a composite index, a serious one. Maybe that's my personal opinion, the most serious composite index that reflects accurately, at least by using scientific methods that are on our disposal, and it should be taken really seriously by all of us, and especially by the democratic leadership within our region and the European Union. Unfortunately, the index also indicates that the most of the Western Balkan countries still fall within the categories of flawed democracies or hybrid regimes. The most serious long-term declines globally are in first civil liberties, the electoral process, then the pluralism itself, which are precisely the areas which are essential for democratic resilience. The index also highlights deeper challenges. Many citizens feel unrepresented and disconnected from the politics. So there is some measurable level of apathy among the citizens. The next set of points that I would like to make today and add to the discussion is with regard to the expectations from the European Union that I would like to join, especially those voices at the moment, mainly from the civil society, that advocate for one fundamental and very powerful idea. And that is democracy to be treated as a European public good. Just like security, energy, or climate action. Why? Because even with a slight constitutional redefinitions of the democracy as a term, we could probably achieve better legal grounds for protecting the democratic infrastructure in our societies. Now, how it is approached in a rather rhetorical way. Maybe we should be, I'm glad that Bojan is here, he is a lawyer.
Nobody is perfect. I'm a lawyer.
But it always comes handy to have good legal grounds to build our democratic initiatives and actions on. So this is advisable, it is under debate. So it would be my recommendation also this fora to consider maybe joining these voices within the European Union. In closing, I would like to express my support for the following recommended priorities in your publication, but also today, to put the rule of law at the very center of the democratic action, to, of course, protect effectively the media freedom and information integrity, to build as much as possible resilient democratic elections, to empower civil society and especially youth. I have mentioned that it is visible and really it impresses me that there is a start of articulation of the energy of the young generation. In our region, I hope, I'm more following the developments in the Western Balkan regions. I hope that is the case also in the European Union, in the United States, as well, and other more traditional democracies. And last but not least, to continue with networking and through networking to strengthen the regional and European cooperation on these topics. I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. And can I comment briefly? Yes. Since we share the moderation of this panel, I'm trying to be also cooperative. I would just make a point to the line in which Tony has mentioned the democracy as a public good. It's a fantastic idea. It's brilliant. It's really powerful message that we heard from you at this point. But we also need to add a little appendix. You know, we in North Macedonia are very used to appendixes and so on. I would add a little note there, and it is that we must be very careful on how democracy is treated by political, financial, and authoritarian centers of power, because it's exactly the democratic platform that has been used to gain power and to kill democracy. Indeed, the democracy is the pathway for the authoritarian and militant centers of power who are using democratic principles, disinformation, propaganda, other hybrid ways of destabilization, and also they're extremely well organized in an axis of destructive power, authoritarian power, unlike the Democrats who are too nice. A colleague of ours, a columnist for Frontline, would say too nice, or they are disorganized or very often entrenched into feuds about details without looking at the big picture. So thank you for letting me make a comment on this. I was really inspired by what you said.
I was as well. This issue of competitive authoritarian regimes is really important. The ones that are using democratic institutions to consolidate power. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
I was thinking we should, this is a slight reordering, but since Bojan Maricic has heard his name mentioned while we were just talking, and I saw you taking notes on Tony's work, I thought maybe you could speak next. Bojan Maricic is a legal and governance expert with extensive experience in European integration, institutional reform, and justice sector modernization. As Deputy Prime Minister for European Affairs and previously as Minister of Justice, he led key processes related to EU alignment, rule of law reforms, and public administration modernization. His work continues to focus on strengthening democratic institutions and advancing North Macedonia's European trajectory.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Jabir, for the invitation. Nobody has introduced me better in my life, so thank you so much for this. I'm really honored to be in this panel. Particularly with Tony, who is such an inspiring speaker, and also with the others, dear colleagues that with very good points up to now. I will comment on a little bit because I think that Tony has touched upon the core of the problem, of the issue, of the modern technology and its implications in democracy and in the society. Then it was also a bit a new topic for me, so I was reading a lot to prepare for this session, so I'm going to try to describe and explain how some things are resolved at the EU level and what are the gaps, particularly discussing the gaps between the EU and the Western Balkans and what can they produce. Eventually, I will also try to mention what I think should be done, not only what's wrong and what is a problem, but also as a kind of a call for action. But first of all, as an intro, I would comment on the core values of Europe as a continent and core values of the European Union as a structure. Tony mentioned about this and democracy as a common good or public good. I think that the European continent has a uniquely developed institutions and legal instruments, international law instruments that are unprecedented in other parts of the world. The European Convention for Human Rights, also being followed by a court and by the whole structure of Council of Europe, is a unique one. The core of the Council of Europe, I am deliberately mentioning it first, is to actually preserve and protect the three core values of the European continent: rule of law, democracy, and human rights, fundamental rights. This is why it exists. And it has been taken as a whole, the whole corpus of legal definitions, instruments, and decisions of the Court of Human Rights have been taken as a part of the EU law and part of the EU, let's say, EU values. So there is a lot of devices already that we have to empower. So I think that this idea is great. It has been built over time, but now it's time to not only to empower it, but also to show resilience on one side, but determination to fight for these values on the other. Because we might be into a situation to fight for these values at all battlefields and by all means. And we should be ready for this. I think this is the real call for action, the real topic, because these values are here. They have been established in decades, in the last 8 decades, let's say, particularly after the Second World War, and they have been challenged today. They have been challenged from within the European continent and the European Union, and they have been challenged from abroad, from traditional opponents, but also from traditional partners. And this is a challenge that the Europe as a continent and the European Union as a structure has to face and has to prepare to show not only resilience, but preparedness to fight for. By saying this, I would go into this topic of democratic resilience in the European context, speaking about AI and the modern technology. Several basic conclusions that I have taken from what I have seen. First of all, the synthetic media is no longer a niche threat. It is a mainstream and scalable already. So deep fakes, AI-generated content are now very cheap, very fast, very accessible and convincing. The real danger is not only the fake videos, but the real danger is erosion of the truth itself. So people begin to doubt everything, to question everything, which is not good in essence, but it's good when you question something that has been tested and established as a truth. For the European Union, this is a democratic risk, definitely. But for the Western Balkans aspirants for the EU membership, it is a state capacity and credibility risk as well, where institutions are already facing lower baseline trust and fewer resources to respond rapidly. This is particularly in the countries of transition, a present doubt in the public institutions and in their good intentions and capacities. Second is that disinformation today works as an ecosystem, not as an incident, not as a single lie, but as a system. Modern disinformation combines synthetic content, algorithmic amplification, micro-targeting, and monetization at the same time. So it spreads across platforms, it spreads across borders, often linked to geopolitical interests of some countries. EU states focus on systemic regulation, but the Western Balkan societies often experience these campaigns more intensively as testing grounds for narratives that are later on presented in the EU. And on the other hand, the Western Balkan countries has less protective measures and mechanisms than the EU. Another thing is that algorithmic manipulation shifts power from the citizens to the opaque systems. what people see online is shaped much less by choice and much more by platform design and recommendation systems. So it is they're deceived, people are deceived that they have a choice, which actually is very limited. On this, the EU Digital Services Act targets these systemic risks. For EU aspirants, like North Macedonia is, the challenge is double. They import the same platforms but lack equivalent regulatory leverage, making them more vulnerable to manipulation and polarization. I also work as an expert in the area of EU integration in other countries than North Macedonia, particularly in Moldova, in Ukraine, and in Montenegro, and all of them are facing the same problem, particularly those who are bordering Russia and that area, but not bordering Russia or the Russian interests. Shared reality is becoming a security issue, not just a media problem. And I think this is also something that we should shift in the perception. When citizens no longer agree on basic facts, decision-making, crisis response, and democratic debate break down. The EU increasingly treats information integrity as a critical democratic infrastructure. And this is the point where we need to also go into more detailed definition of democracy in order to keep it as a common good and as a common good. In the Western Balkans, that directly affects EU accession narratives, public support for reforms and resilience against external influence are deeply affected by this. The response must combine regulation, literacy, and regional inclusion. So the EU tools that are also regulatory, but also related to transparency, to platform accountability, they do matter, but they work best when they are paired with media literacy, when they're coupled with media literacy, institutional communication capacity, and regional cooperation among the countries. If Western Balkan aspirants are left outside these frameworks, the EU's own information space will remain exposed to these threats, and resilience must be shared, not fragmented. This is what really matters. Today's media ecosystem acts as a force multiplier for hybrid warfare. This is also one of the conclusions if you read if you try to analyze the stage. The hybrid threats are no longer rely primarily on military power, but they exploit media platforms, algorithmic amplifications, and network influence operations. In the EU, this is now recognized as a security challenge, not only a communication problem. For Western Balkan aspirants, for our countries, the same tactics have greater impact due to the weaker institutional buffers and higher levels of societal distrust in general. Also, hybrid warfare targets trust, not only beliefs. So they target the core of the targets of the hybrid warfare is to undermine the trust of the people in the system, in the system of values also, and in democracy as a system. The objective is often confusion, fatigue, and cynicism, rather than convincing the citizens a single false narrative. By attacking the trust in media, in elections, in courts, in public administration, in these hybrid actors undermine the democratic decision-making process. This erosion of shared reality is especially destabilizing the accession countries, the already unstable countries like ours, where the public trust in the institutions is anyway low. I would mention also one thing: algorithmic systems accelerate polarization and introduce the so-called post-shame politics. So platform design rewards outrage, certainty, and identity signaling, lowering the reputational cost for political actors and also normalizing the so-called post-truth and post-shame behavior, which we are witnessing on a daily basis. The European Union is trying to respond through systemic regulation under this famous Digital Services Act. However, the Western Balkan societies import this platform dynamics without equivalent regulatory leverage, which makes them more vulnerable to manipulation. Disinformation operates, as I said, as an ecosystem and not as isolated incidents, which is very which is very important to know. And finally, closing the EU-Western Balkan resilience gap is a security imperative. So information integrity must be treated as part of the democratic infrastructure, not only as part of the communication process. And the EU tools, accountability, transparency, enforcement are effective only if they are, as I said, complemented with all these instruments that cover regulation, but also media literacy and power of the media. Finally, I would just mention that the safeguards must move from reacting to lies to governing systems. So it's not enough to only react to the lies, but to establish a governing system that will systemically challenge these sources of disinformation and rage production. The challenge is no longer only false content, but on how platforms, algorithms, AI systems are shaping the public debate at scale. The EU approach in the Digital Services Act, AI Act, and Media Freedom Act focuses on systemic risk, transparency, and accountability by design, rather than chasing individual pieces of disinformation. So the point of the EU regulation today is to influence the shaping of the platforms, so they can be shaped in a transparent way and in an accountable way by design from the onset. Also, ethical and legal standards, I will finish by this, are converging around human rights and democracy. So this is not a question of only, as I said, of communication or media freedom. It is related directly to human rights, rule of law, and democratic values, which are the core values of Europe and the European Union. And this is settled down in the AI Act of the EU and the Council of Europe's AI Convention. This is why I mentioned at the beginning the Council of Europe. The goal is not to slow down innovation, but much more to ensure that technological power does not outpace democratic oversight. And finally, the media freedoms and pluralism are core democratic safeguards. So protecting open societies requires actually independent, pluralistic, and resilient media ecosystem, and not just content moderation. This is particularly important in smaller and fragile media markets, including the Western Balkans, where political and economic pressures can seriously undermine public trust more easily. And the EU democratic resilience depends on whether they are going to include the Western Balkans aspirants or not. Western Balkans cannot be treated as an appendix to the EU, but if EU wants to be more resilient, more powerful, and more active in the fight against its risks, it has to count on the Western Balkans in its calculations and in its strategies and in its policies. Thank you so much, and sorry for being a bit extensive.
Thank you indeed. Can I comment again? Thank you very much, Bojan. This was one more valuable and important paper that you presented today, and certainly will take part in our final documents that we will promote worldwide. And I would like to just stress only one of the many points you made, and it is the fact that Europe must not only build the resilience nowadays, but it needs to defend its values, the democratic values, and it's exactly the first conclusion that we had also 1 year ago on this day in 2024 here in Skopje, where from Skopje the voice of democracy has been sent out to the world, and we said that we need to defend democracy, not only to promote it as we used to back in the 2000s when we first met, you being one of the leaders of the Youth Educational Forum, but also to defend it. Now we are in a position to defend it and to defend both democracy and human rights, which means fight. Of course, I'd like to continue in the spirit and the style of my dear colleague Heather and present the next the next speaker at our panel, and that's Admir Lisica, Director of the Center for Geopolitical Research, Geopol, from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's great to see him exactly 1 year after at the conference today. Admir Lisica is a political analyst and researcher focusing on geopolitical developments in Southeast Europe, international security and hybrid threats. A director of Geopol or Geopol Sarajevo, he leads research on regional influence operations, security vulnerabilities, and the political dynamics shaping the Western Balkans. His work bridges academic research, policy expertise, and public communication on democratic resilience. Hello, Admir, and thank you again for being with us today. The floor is yours. Please, without any further ado, give us your takeaways and also your presentation. And for the audience, both online and in the Civic Resource Center, after Admir, we have Dr. Wolfgang Ressmann to give us some closing thoughts, and then Heather and I will try to summarize, but please stay with us during that time because we have a lot of things to say. Izvoli, Admire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Jaber. Thank you for kind introduction. You said last year I speak about threats, malignant influence, and we continue in this year to speak about situation in the Western Balkan. Bojan speak about Western Balkan, and I will also to speak about situation in our region, but I will focus on geopolitics. You know that. Today's Europe is facing numerous challenges. In my opinion, Europe appears quite divided, and this is the very big problem for us, for Western Balkan. The situation is influenced by continuous rise of right-wing politics, Christian radicalism, Islamophobia, and mutual misunderstanding. Right-wing rigid politics are no longer a phenomenon who seen only in traditional right-wing societies like Hungary, Slovakia, Poland. We now see the phenomenon in the liberal society like such as Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, and France. Last month I visited Denmark, and before I deliver a speech in one conference, I speak with one political researcher and politicians in Denmark, and told me that in this period Denmark citizens vote in a local election, and the result of this local election is that in Denmark we have a rise of right-wing movement. That is a new era in Scandinavia, I think. Today, during Russia aggression against Ukraine, we are also facing with malign Russian influence in the European region, such as the Western Balkan, specifically within Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, but also here in Montenegro. Russia trying through its proxy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, that's Serbian politicals, as well as official Serbia, to complete the relationship in the region, which will directly reflect on the rest Europe. I fear that Europe sometimes does not sufficiently understand that its need to direct its capacity towards strategic democracy in the Western Balkan countries. For example, Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Bosniak are often targeted by various Serbian and Croatian lobbyists who create false propaganda narrative directed against Bosniak Muslim, to whom they want to attribute radicalism that does not exist. Throughout history, we know Bosniak Muslims have protected their Jewish neighborhood during World War, also during the Ottoman conquest, but also during the last aggression, Serbian aggression against Bosnia. My attitude is that Bosnian took care about their neighborhood, the Jewish Serbian, but in divided Europe, we have some attitude in, I think, far-right movements who want to say that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country who have a problem with some radicalism. But it's not true, Europeans should know how important Bosnia and Herzegovina is for European society and democracy. And instead of allowing their dehumanization, Bosniaks and Bosnia and Herzegovina are part of Europe. And I think European people must be further strengthened. And this situation make it easier for Russia to exert influence in the Balkans. That is a way to complicate situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. European must support all of us in Western Balkans, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo. I think NATO give support to Macedonia and Montenegro, and that is very important. If we don't go to NATO, we will continue treat problems in Bosnia and Herzegovina like in this situation. If we want peace in the coming years in Europe, the number one geopolitical decision for me is to Bosnia and Herzegovina entry into NATO. In this way, European will help not only Bosnian and Western Balkan. I think European will help and itself in this case. If Europe does not want a new Ukraine in the Balkan, it must more strongly support the countries where Russia wants to establish their influence. Today, we can say that it is necessary to promote idea of unity, not division. We must also develop mutual trust and strengthen cooperation. Also, I think that's important that Europe understands geopolitical position of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia and Macedonia, because in the past 3 decades we have a big malign influence with external factors. We have a situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina during the war. Russia supports Serbian side. After war, also politicals from Republika Srpska entity in Bosnia and Herzegovina have very good relationship with Moscow, and for me it's a big problem when Brussels or Washington or London don't punishment that I think acting Serbian political acting in the Bosnia and Herzegovina, he tried to say, okay, we are for European Union, but we are not for NATO. But you know, a country who not going to NATO will not be a member of European Union. For me, it's important to be part of this conference because you said that civil is the voice of democracy, and I think that in a region of Western Balkan we need a lot of discussion like that to speak about foreign threats, security threats, and I hope in next year you will organize it event like this, and you know, in next year is a NATO summit in Ankara, and I hope after that summit we will some discussion about region, and I hope that geopolitical actor in the region will support Bosnia and Herzegovina in her path to join to NATO family. Thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, it's on. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will now go, thank you very much, Admir. We will now go to Dr. Wolfgang Ressmann. Is Wolfgang on? I hope that he...
Yes, he's
yes,
there.
wonderful.
He's
okay,
there.
thank you, thank you. Wolfgang Ressmann, Dr. Wolfgang Ressmann is the president of Media Dialogue Germany. He is the co-founder of the Defending Democracy Global Initiative. Dr. Ressmann is a media expert and civil society leader with decades of experience in cross-border democratic cooperation. As president of Media Dialogue and co-founder of the Defending Democracy Global Initiative, he leads initiatives on media freedom, civic participation, and countering disinformation with a strong focus on Ukraine and Europe's democratic landscape. Thank you for being here, Dr. Ressmann.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, dear Heather. Yeah, I want to say some words about the frame we have to discuss about defending our democracy here, and one of the things is economic based. And when we have because legitimation from democracy comes also from economic output, and I think there are a lot of challenges are waiting for Europe. First of all, good news. We have 44 million people in Europe in the EU countries. When all other countries will follow, we will have just 500 million people with best growth possibilities. But the main question is: are we able to concentrate this human power, this economic power? When we have a look at the moment at the things Trump tries to do to let the European Union explode by picking up Italy, by picking up other countries, this is the danger. This is a danger we have to have an eye. So I think that one of the most important things is that the European Union, that we in Europe, as a European Union, all the expected new member countries, to have in mind that we have to use our performance in Europe to become better and independent. Independent means, and as Emmanuel says before, that this free trade period, absolutely free trade as a theory and as an ideological, is over. We have to define our security, our economical growth, and our democracy rights based also on own power. That means that the common market of Europe is one of the most important markets of us. This is one point we have to think about it. The next point is, and that depends also to the media theme. I think, and I really say it like I mean it, I think the tech giants, or the so-called tech giants, are becoming more and more enemies of Europe and of our democracy. This is a very, very important thing, and they earn a lot of money in the European Union. So a lot of money is going over the ocean and give them the possibility to attack our democracy systems in Europe like Trump is doing. And this is the thing, we have to put an own system of AI infrastructure. That means centers of computers, centers of storage space. Why even I do it? Why? But we all do it. Why are we using Zoom? Why are we using Google Drive and all the things? Because they made a good price and it's rather easy to use them. But it should and it must be possible that Europe is building up an own infrastructure. And as stronger our own infrastructure is, we can use IA acts and we can regulate these crazy guys like Zuckerberg's, Google's, Microsoft's, and so on. We have at an aim not to throw them out, but to regulate them in a way that Europe and European IT industry is in the middle. And let me remember you all to one technology revolution. It's a longer time ago when Europeans started with Airbus. Europeans started with Airbus in a situation where Boeing was the most important plane builder in the world, and see what's going on. If Europe wants, we can. And this must be a message also to the trumpet, also to the US, and also to China. We are stronger than China economically. We are stronger than China based on our democratic value. But we have to fight for our economic survive, and we have to fight for our economic strongness. And we have to fight against this right-wing activist thinking that there are sympathies to Trump. This is the same thing, and to Russia, to this Putin Russia too. These guys and these developments. Meloni is trying at the moment to be on every side, in the middle of all ideological on the right side. She knows very well, and the Italian government very well, how they need the European Union. But that also means that the democratic states in the middle have to show these states in between. For example, Hungary and in the Czech Republic too, that we will no longer accept this role which they are playing based on this anonymity principle that only European Union can make decisions in most parts when everyone, when every member agrees. This must be abolished. We must find a way for majority decisions in Europe based on principles of democracy. We have to imagine too that this undemocratic movements in Europe were financed by Europe. The whole corruption system of Orban in Hungary is paid with European money, and the same in other places. we have to imagine it in the middle as in our democracy. So we have to, in our democratic system in Europe. So we have to imagine, in my opinion, that a lot of things defending democracy must be chosen, ways to defend democracy must be chosen by our own inside of Europe. We have to show that we are not accepting Orban's and his place, and when he wants to do, he should have the possibility to leave, or the money flow is over. And I mean that really in a hard way. The times of compromises in this field, internal Europe, are over, in my view, when we want to have a chance for survival and using the whole situation to become independent also from the US. Independence means also that we need an own space industry. We know we must develop own economically working systems of rockets in a way that we can use our own satellites militarily, as scientifically and economically, that we don't need this Musk imperium, that we don't need Russian rockets to bring us in satellites to space. We need our own technologies to bring us to space and use it also military. And we will also have the only chance to survive in as a democratic power in the middle when we are militarily strong enough. This is also an important point. And we need, this is, I think, another point which is necessary when we leave this the system of free economy around the world. We also have to show our capital here, our big industry here, that investments in China, investments also in the US must be a part of our political interests. In the middle flow, I think this will be also cause very interesting possibilities for our protections. And that means, coming back to media, when we building up our own media and IT technology-based system with own social media works, then we can really start with regulation. Then we can really fight for our opinion of freedom of speech in these networks, and not being penalty by the US. But then we can say also the network, the IT giants in the US, that our regulatory is working. And when they want to earn money in the future in Europe, they have to accept it, and not thinking like Trump is doing at the moment, that the world is Europe will disappear from the landscape when Musk has to pay penalties against our laws. I think these are very important points. We have to imagine Europe must wake up. We all together have to wake up and to build this infrastructure starting in our heads. And then also the Russian problem, this Russian aggression against Ukraine is one of the points where we have to protect Ukraine and we have to stand with Ukraine against a peace plan, making Ukraine or dividing Ukraine in several parts, and dividing Ukraine and let Ukraine also disappear as an idea against this Russian imperialistic and kleptocratic thinking. And all, let me say again, the key is our unity. Our unity is the key. And our unity as Democrats also against the internal enemies of democracy in the roles of European governments, in the roles of European party, is also a thing we have to fight against. We have three front lines, I think. First of all, the Ukraine front line against this Russian attack and to weaken Europe, today combined with interest in the US. We have the second threat, let's say it so, with this right-wing populist parties, and we also have to come together against these undemocratic forces we have in Europe in government. These are the points, I think, which are necessary. Europe must wake up, and we have enough power. We really have enough power. We have enough people. We have great people. We have knowledge, and we have a culture which brings us together, but it's so different and with so many aspects. That's a richdom. We are so rich in cultural things that we can also, I believe, be sure that we can use our media freedom in protection of our media freedom to show our people, all of our people, how rich Europe is and what chance Europe is, and that we are the ones who give them economical growth possibilities, incomes, security, and all the things the others are at the moment telling that we are not able to do it. We have to show them that we are able to do it. This is also a task for the near future. We can't wait for longer. Several years we have to do all the things I said when we want to be an important part of the world in 10 and 20 years. So thank you very much for your attention, and we need the media freedom naturally, because media are producing opinions in the heads of the people, gives them facts to think about how we all want to live. And this is one of the tasks I tried also with media dialogue, and we did it in the last with a project this year in our Eastern European countries, which are membered. You see the flags. Yeah, let's see. Big tasks, but big chances and great times for us if we want it. And all the best for Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang, for this powerful speech and powerful messages. At the very end, I think this was a very good closing note by Dr. Ressman here. At the very end, I'd like to mention the fact that we were working on a Skopje statement. The Skopje statement of the Defending Democracy, Horizons of Freedom, is signed on December 12th, exactly 1 year after the last year's conference with the same name, Defending Democracy. And I'd like to briefly present this document to you. It will be sent to all speakers and partners who worked with us throughout the whole year, and it will be an official document very shortly. Right now, the proposed text is the following. As Europe confronts its most serious assault on peace, human dignity and democratic values in a generation, we, the participants of Defending Democracy, Horizons of Freedom, gathered in Skopje during Human Rights Week 2025, reaffirm our shared commitment to freedom, truth, and democratic resilience. Number one, freedom and human dignity are non-negotiable. We reaffirm that human rights, human dignity, and democratic freedoms are universal and indivisible. Wherever rights are violated, wherever truth is suppressed, and wherever intimidation or fear are used as tools of power, democracy is under attack. Number two, Ukraine stands at the front line of Europe's defense. We recognize that Ukraine continues to defend not only its own sovereignty, but also the security and democratic future of Europe. Russia's aggression, military, hybrid, informational, diplomatic, and economic, is an attack on the international order and the fundamental principles of human rights. We stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people and with all who support their struggle for freedom. Hybrid warfare, number 3, hybrid warfare and disinformation threaten democratic societies. We acknowledge that hybrid aggression is deliberate, coordinated, and escalating across Europe and the Western Balkans. Disinformation, foreign interference, corruption networks, and information warfare erode democratic institutions and weaken societal trust. We commit to strengthening early warning systems, building cross-sector cooperation, and enhancing civic and institutional resilience. Number 4, artificial intelligence, a new battlefield and a new opportunity. AI amplifies both threats and solutions. We commit to promoting ethical, transparent, and democratic uses of artificial intelligence, resisting manipulative and harmful applications, and empowering individuals to navigate an increasingly digital and post-truth information space. Number 5, the role of civil society, media, and youth. Strong civil society and free independent media remain essential pillars of democratic defense. We affirm the essential role of young people as co-creators of democratic culture and as the front line of future democratic engagement. Youth bring energy, creativity, and moral clarity to the struggle for freedom, truth, and justice. Their active participation is necessary to renew democratic values and assure long-term resilience. Number 6, a shared commitment to democratic resilience. We commit to deepening cooperation among citizens, institutions, researchers, journalists, educators, artists, and international partners. Democratic resilience requires solidarity both within societies and across borders, local, regional, European, and global. The road ahead, number 7, the road ahead, and the last point. The statement is a call to action to stand firmly against aggression and disinformation, to defend truth and human dignity, to empower youth as agents of freedom and democratic renewal, to strengthen civil society and democratic institutions, to expand cross-border cooperation in Europe and beyond, and to continue building the horizons of freedom together. Skopje, December 12, 2025, adopted hopefully by participants of Defending Democracy, Horizons of Freedom, Democracy Navigator 2025 Human Rights Week. Thank you very much. With this, I believe we concluded this year's conference, Defending Democracy, Horizons of Freedom. I thank you very much for your participation, for your patience, and to all our participants online. We will carry on